about the entire mindset and, how do we bring that equilibrium in the organization. So Gen Z is our iPhone and the social media generation. Then the Gen AI is the generation next that we're going to soon welcome to the workplace, who will never know a world without AI. Those are the AI babies who are growing up in this world, and that's the reality. So what I'm trying to tell here is that when internet revolution happened, no one was prepared. No, okay, and I think that time we didn't had social media, and also hardly there was any, allowed communication around that. But it just happened. It set in, people accepted, people learned, and we have moved on. And now again, we are in this digital revolution, technology revolution, and it is going to be our life. And sooner we take it in the positive stride, it will be better. uh, we are in a very transformative crossroads right now. We are talking about triple T here. One is technology, we have talent, and then we have trust. Trust is going to be the centerpiece here. So, technology and talent, along with trust, is actually going to drive organizations into a space which is going to be the future. So, with this, thank you, Ajit.
Thank you, Ruchi. And I think, yes, you touched upon a very, very important note. I mean, we are talking of Gen Z, which is, I think for even organizations, probably find that quite a lot when it comes to the, when you're looking at recruiting, because I think the current generation is really not going to see anything, other than AI. I think all of us probably, me and Rajiv have seen from the cassette days to where we are right now, and we seem to have traveled through time. But yes, I think what you touched upon, technology, talent, and trust, is something which will probably be the sort of basis for everything that we do. So thank you so much, Ruchi, and over to you, Trevor. Love to hear what you have to say.
So the focus here is in terms of how BFSI and digital are working together, right? So we also need to understand the genesis of the BFSI sector. So the genesis was basically to cater to a social responsibility with an economic focus, penetrating cultural agglomeration across this country. And because of that, today, we have the entire social aspect where investing money is a mindset. Ensuring that you provide for family is also a mindset. Maximizing profitability is also a mindset, right? Then you have, and this is not just for an individual, but this is for. Then you have the economic aspect about maximizing profit. And then you have the cultural aspect, which is about countries, geographies, having GDP, so on and so forth, right? So, and interestingly today, with the way technology has evolved, each of these pillars, be that social, be that cultural, be that economic, are all being shaken from their very foundations. And the ability not, I mean, we've seen how
even if it's technology, it's finally us, the people that are, it's not machines that are going to take over us. So with that, I think we'll get into a question answer round, and I keep it open for all the three panelists. I don't want to go to, because I want to hear everyone's views, because all of you all have got such interesting experiences and views. So just a thought, in fact, I think something we were discussing prior to this panel is something which Trevor, you touched upon, is digital ethics. You know, that's something which probably I think the audience would be happy to sort of hear from you all, because we are seeing so much in the digital space that what is right, what is wrong. I mean, are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the wrong thing? So from your experience to sort of what all that you've sort of seen, love to hear the panelists' views on digital ethics. Trevor, we'll start with you.
A very important discussion, that because I think one, as technology starts to transform, it obfuscates the difference between what is right and what is wrong, because increasingly we don't know what is right and what is wrong. And Rajiv used the word ethicist, right? I completely resonated with that. The understanding of right and wrong in an era where technology is advancing is very difficult. How much is too much is also very difficult. You know, one person's privacy is another person's access. One person's openness to accept information is another person's, sensitivity to how much he or she is willing to share. And who knows where the lines are drawn? No one knows, because nobody knows what the line is. And increasingly today, the ability to debate that is going to be very important, and that's why trust. Because there has to be a common definition of trust. There has to be a common definition of what is good for humanity. It cannot anymore be about individuals or organizations or nations. It has to be about humanity, because this is a wave that is going to cut through at a very human level. And therefore, the ability to have that sensitivity to say, is this in the greater common good of humanity, versus is this in the greater common good of my need to maximize profit, or build a brand, or at the end of the day see myself as successful, is going to be very important. And a simple case in point when it comes to digital ethics is, today we're looking at information sharing, right? Very simple, when you're talking about KYC norms, well, what is started as a regulation, increasingly organizations, industry bodies want to know more, and they are right, because they need to know the person at the other end staying invested in the organization for its products and services. But there are lots of information pieces that are being asked. We also have the DPDP Act, right? At the end of the day, that's what's also coming into play. On the one hand, it is good, because it is making things a lot more transparent. But how much of transparency is too much of transparency, where the individual feels vulnerable to share, feels exposed in ways that they don't, or they're not ready to be exposed, is where the debate has to lie. And therefore, this entire focus on digital ethics becomes very, very important. And the only way we can make sense of this beast is collectively, not individually, through discourses like this.
Thank you, Trevor. Ruchi?
So, data is one word which is kind of everywhere. We are all talking about data mining, data collating, data security. So what exactly is this data? Zanina just mentioned about how information like anniversary, your child's birthday, and all of this is getting stored, shared, used. So data ethics actually is going to be the most important piece for an organization henceforth. That's how principally we'll have to train people, train organizations, and train individuals around as Mark mentioned, how much should be used, where all can it be used, and why it should be used. I think all these questions need to be asked before we actually go ahead and use that data. In asset management space, we do a lot of predictive analysis these days. Predictive analysis again uses a lot of data. How exactly are our consumers buying funds? What kind of funds? What's the tenure, for how many years are they holding? What kind of that's huge amount of information from customers that is being analyzed. Uh, Good exercise, yes, will take organizations into a long way, but ethics and ensuring that information is being used in a manner which doesn't violate any of the rules or privacy of individual is something which will be the center. Over to you, Zarina.
How many of you have been class monitors during school, college, or even now? Anybody here? You remember how much of a pain it was to get everybody to do what you needed them to do? Now imagine a bank needs to do that for the amount of transactions that it is doing, right? So to what both of them have mentioned, one part of it is you and your responsibility. From an organization's perspective, and especially in BFSI and that third layer of regulator that I spoke of, to have your job roles, workflows, processes, risk management, fraud management in a manner that today if I'm not there and Ruchi takes over my role, is done in the same manner without the bias of what they've both spoken of coming in. So one part of it is me as the employee, the other is the organization getting its act right. So most financial services, because it's regulated, will have to make sure that your workflows, if you'll see, you'll have a lot more of KYC that they touched upon. There's internal processes and policies also like that. So I think along with the people side, an aspect of ethics and digital and safety comes from inside of the organization as well.
Thank you all. I think it was an interesting discussion, and I think you all did touch upon, because I think digital ethics is something which all of us are grappling with. And as it gets more and more, more data is taken, or we are giving, we really, from the bank's point of view or from the insurance company's point of view, it's really going to be a tough line to draw. Okay, coming back to our HR sort of space, how can BFSI organizations balance the need for digital transformation with the need to retain and develop existing talent? Floor is open to.
Your domain.
So yeah, I will go first here. It's, there are two parts of this question. One, we are talking about the digital transformation. That's the main one. And the second, of course, we are talking about how do organization retain, right? Retain, develop, ensure that the people are taken care of. So one, when we talk about digital transformation, of course, we will do, the needful with respect to bringing in newer technologies. I think here, the main important piece is how do we ensure it's a complete mix of digital and human, the blend, okay? The right blend is the word here of digital and human. And second is how do we also blend empathy along with that? So first and the foremost thing, how do we bring in a psychological security amongst individual that technology is not to replace people or replace jobs, it's going to enable them. That's the first and the foremost thing that organization needs to do. So psychological safety and the communication and education piece of it, and along with empathy, as I mentioned. Now, once you have done that, that's kind of setting the tone right, then you move next with respect to ensuring that people are getting the right avenues with respect to upskilling, reskilling. How do we kind of, bring, there are various edtech platforms these days that talk about certifications, and they give you great opportunity to, get certified in AI, blockchain, cybersecurity, and all of that. So how do we kind of have those programs, inbuilt into our system, organizational system, so that people, continuously learn while we kind of, talk to them about how technology is the big thing. Once these two things are done, now the next question comes, are we kind of putting the right set of people into the right jobs. So whenever you have a job which requires certain skill sets, which is AI or technology related, I need to look in and ensure that if I'm training my people, am I giving those opportunities to them so that they can now showcase, their talent with respect to technology. And once I have done that, I also need to look into incentivizing, rewarding them, because that's the end to the entire journey that I have crafted for my people. But that's again the most important piece, to ensure that I'm retaining my people. I'm giving them the career progression, I'm giving them opportunities, and I'm also incentivizing them towards the end.
Thank you, Ruchi. Zarina,
Limited point for a long time. So exactly to what Ruchi touched upon, for a long time, learning and development used to be, at least industry side in financial services, used to be like this danda, right? It was a stick because you had to do it to be able to get promoted. Now, with this entire democratization of data, I'm sure all of you have a Udemy or an Upgrad or something on your phone, right? It's the same thing here. Because you are able to learn on your own, you are able to learn what you want. To the point that Ruchi also made, the balancing act has now become also employee being able to say, okay, I have these skill sets to be able to be retained over here or to do some other job in the organization. So it's no longer, again, employee saying, okay, do this. It is me coming up myself and saying, I already know this, now I can move here. So that retention part in some sense is getting taken care of because I have the ability to come back and say I can. Limited point on this.
thanks. Trevor, any comments?
So, digital again, like I said, is not about replacement. It's, to my mind, and as we're all saying it, it's about reskilling. And when we're talking about reskilling, far too often organizations make the mistake that reskilling falls into the HR bucket. Reskilling is an organizational mandate. It is a business requirement, it's not just an HR requirement. So there has to be a work in tandem. You cannot reskill only from an HR lens. It has to be, from a strategic lens. And to that extent, how HR puts the guardrails become very important. So yes, HR plays a very important role, but it is not the only role to be played for reskilling by HR. Because what happens then is, like Zarina mentioned, it becomes a danda wala approach. This is an HR mandate. HR danda chala raha hai, इसीलिए learning करनी पड़ती है. HR danda chala raha hai, otherwise I will not get my promotion. We are moving away from that. It is no more, because people have to be very conscious of their own growth trajectories. HR here is an enabling platform. It is not a dictator telling you what to do, when to do, how much to do, and why to do. And increasingly, the intelligence of people in an organization to understand that is going to be defined as what true learning and appetite for growth is going to be defined as. And to that extent, rewarding curiosity, incentivizing intelligent risk taking, and making failure psychologically safe is going to be very important, because that's the only way to survive this huge wave of digital transformation.
Thanks, Trevor. And just a further extension to this question, what, according to you all, are the most critical skills and competencies required for BFSI professionals to remain relevant in a rapidly changing industry? Just an extension of what we asked before. What skills and competencies do you all feel are relevant?
So I'll take a step back from that question. If you Google search what are the top skills required for FS in India today, your top 10 searches, in fact 20 searches into your next page, will all say top 10. Somewhere or the other it is about analytical thinking, customer centricity, and I'm sure those of you who are doing computer science especially are going to find it very fuzzy that I am putting all my time into. Everybody on this panel has talked about humanity and talked about how you can make sense, but that's when you come into banking and financial services, one technical is this background and the hygiene that is there. A large part of that is applying, and therefore to the particular question of what kind of competency, the ability to get that technical into real life. And obviously because it's and Mark touched upon it, right? Like the genesis of BFSI was because you're a fiduciary of someone's money. You're either lending them money, taking money, or making them some money. And therefore the ability to bring that understanding of technicals, but with that customer centric, I think that, and it's been there. It's been there in the 90s, it was there in the 2000s, it was there when the crash happened, it will continue to be there in terms of that core competency in FS.
I will not talk about technological skills here. That's given. Okay. So let's look at what exactly do BFSI look for apart from all these things. The first and the foremost thing, financial acumen, that's not going anywhere. In spite of any technology, any AI that we talk about, we still have people who are going out and meeting distributors, customers, HNI, ultra HNI, multiple people. That's the kind of the role that still is and is going to be prevalent because that's not going anywhere. With newer products coming in, we have a lot of new segments that gets introduced into the asset management, of course into the banking space also. The need for one to be updated, educated about what's happening in and around is something which will take them to newer heights. Second is because we are heavily regulated, say by RBI, SEBI, am I aware of the regulatory aspects? Do I understand the jargons there? That's another piece which is going to ensure that, I'm there ahead. And third, of course, on the softer side, when we look at a lot of behavioral aspects also will be very, very important. Right from emotional intelligence, critical thinking, all of this is going to be the most important piece along with whatever else that you are embedding upon to ensure that you are working in the right spirits. So from me, these are the three aspects that we should all be talking about.
Thank you. Trevor?
So I'm classifying it into 4 buckets, and I made a note of it because this is something we talk day in and day out at Kotak. Digital intelligence, of which AI fluency and blockchain will be a huge part for BFSI. Risk and cyber acumen, again because it's no more about knowing rules, right? Because you have Google to do that for you. But it's about interpreting risk and its application in advance predictively. So to that extent, incident response readiness, understanding where risk can come, because today we don't, like I said before, we don't know how technology will change. So the ability for institutions to foresee risk in ways that they never knew before and be prepared for it. Like when COVID came, we never knew COVID would come because we never even thought something like that could happen. And overnight, it happened in a week. It was upon us. We thought we would all go on a vacation for a week, and then we realized that week turned into almost 2 years. And the entire operating model for BFSI, as for most other organizations and other models, changed overnight. So there's risk and cyber acumen. Then there's human skills, which is digital ethics and ethical reasoning, which is also going to be very, very important, because our ability to have reasoned conversations based on ethics and morals are again going to come into question. And finally, systems thinking. I know this has been around, but in the face of what we are experiencing at BFSI, it's the interplay between technology and regulation, between customer behavior, between data, and between technology, because constantly this interaction is throwing up new ways of working. And as consultants, as organization specialists, as people in the organization working on strategy, the ability to interpret this interplay is going to be very, very important.
You know
Thank
what the irony in all of this is? While all of us have been speaking about the fact that this entire upskilling is the story, at least in the financial services space, at an average, the L&D budget, your learning and development budget, has only grown by 3 to 5%. Or degrown sometimes. That's the place where most will say, "Acha, cost cutting करनी है तो L&D से निकालो." Despite the fact that this is the core of what we're talking about today.
Thank you. So we all know that the BFSI sector is a highly regulated sector. In spite of that, how do HR leaders drive innovation and creativity in such a regulated sector? Your comments.
So, regulation here is a boundary but not a blocker. And I think the ability to work innovatively and intelligently within that boundary is where the game is to be played. Because when you're dealing with crores and crores of money, and it's a fiduciary responsibility, as Zarina said, it is only natural that there have to be compliances and there has to be a regulator rapping us on our knuckles, telling us we are doing things right or wrong. Because sometimes, as is human nature, organizational nature is also to be carried away. So the ability to work within those boundaries is what is going to be very important. And to that extent, making it psychologically safe for people to experiment. Now, if you're going to be always scared of audits and therefore never innovate, that's not going to be helpful. So, being able to take the decision to innovate, failing fast, is and making it safe, because otherwise organizations only reward success. I think also rewarding failure for the right reasons is going to be very important. And to that extent, you know, having little micro labs where you have sandboxes, where you have pilots of cycles so that you're able to understand how things work, measurable learnings, talking about failures and what we've learned will be very, very important, because that is where we are going to be able to make a huge difference within guidelines of regulatory bodies like the RBI, SEBI or IRDA and so on.
Thanks, Ruchi.
Two bits here that I just have to add. One is, see, from an HR point of view, since your question was more how can HR do this? So I think HR is a catalyst, a very strong catalyst in an organization who is going to drive. Now we are talking about a change from a technology aspect that's slowly getting into organization. The first and the foremost thing that we need to do is this entire initiative has to be top down. How am I aligning my leadership? How am I ensuring my leadership is doing the right communication? How am I ensuring that the leadership is making an effort first themselves to embrace this change and then talk about the change? So that's the first bit that as an HR we all need to do. Second, which Mark talked about, is innovation. We need to create a center and ensure that, you know, more and more people get associated with innovation and talk more about how is it that we can do things differently with help of AI. So as I said before, because we are trying to preach that, you know, it's more from the enablement perspective, we need to continue saying that, okay, now since we said that AI is there and you are going to, you know, get advantage out of it, what is it that you can do? How is it that from which role perspective can you bring AI and, you know, you can ensure that, okay, probably my work time gets reduced, I get more efficient, I can bring in certain, you know, technological advancement with respect to certain work. So all of that will be helping me in ensuring that that innovation team not only comes up with ideas, but that gets implemented too. And of course, towards the end, you incentivize people. You kind of reward them for those noble idea generation.
Thanks, Ruchi. Zarina?
So we were working with the public sector bank fairly recently, and the thing that the CGM HR asked us was, I don't want all of these fancy benefits and flexible benefits and all of that the IT sector and the fintechs are giving them, rewards and recognition, mein motorbike de di and all of that. I want you to be able to tell me that as a benefit, can I make my branch manager leave at 5 p.m. ताला बंद करने के निकल गए, and banking continues to happen, and he or she gets time with the family. And that's the level of innovation that entire, and we've been talking about this balance between tech and human, the reverse, if I can call it that work life also continues to, should be a board priority in that sense, that all of this technology and all of this skill set, how is it allowing me to have that time on the balance side to be able to give me time to do all this upskilling that I'm talking about as well. So For HR, one part of innovation, and I'm sure it's been again there for a while, but is shaping differently, is to say, in that work life itself, instead of giving quantifiable money and rewards and tangible things, how can I give back time to my employees without disruption to the rest of my business as usual as well?
Thanks. So just one last question before we wrap up. I think we are running out of time. And this is, of course, keeping in mind that yes, the L&D budgets are going down and, you know, we are sort of asking, but we are not giving in that situation. But from a leadership perspective, what kind of, how can the leadership create a culture where there is continuous learning and support being given to the team in spite of within the budgets that are there? So what kind of sort of leadership culture, or how would leadership sort of go about it? Just a quick thought on this, because yes, the budgets are not there or they're cut, but still leadership has to be, because otherwise how are you going to be giving, you know, the emerging trends and the technologies that keep changing? How do you support the team and the staff with it? So where does leadership come in, and how does it sort of manage this?
I'll just take a minute here. Since I've already spoken about why it's important, for this entire exercise to be top-driven, that's exactly at the leadership level that it needs to start. Before we even talk about leaders getting into it, I think the entire analysis needs to be done before we start, any organization start on this initiative is, where are we and what exactly we want to do and where we want to reach, right? So once this is done, that is when the leadership needs to take the entire ownership of ensuring that yes, we will make this happen, and it will start from us. So it's very important. I think they are the most important role player here.
Thanks. Trevor, any thoughts?
So I think the shift here has to be collective, and the movement has to be from knowledge to judgment, because that is where we collectively have to learn the ability to judge. Like, we just spoke and we heard we need to know where to go, and we have to collectively take that call. And therefore, increasingly, we are going to see a shift towards social learning. Now, it does two things. In an organization, when you have social learning, leaders are choosing to surface their vulnerability by saying they don't know it all. But they are also taking up that vulnerability responsibly by saying, let us learn collectively. Teach me what I don't know and I will teach you what I know. So we are only going to see a huge uptake in terms of reverse mentoring and through the social learning route, where there will be a lot of focus on peer pods, peers coming together, working collectively on solutions, hackathons, fireside chats, collective marathon sessions on how do you debug, decode, demystify, so on and so forth, where people do not feel embarrassed, guilty, ashamed, or judged for not knowing. Because the answer will come through the collective vulnerabilities of people saying we don't know, but the answer will lie from somewhere. When we all come together, we say we don't know and we are willing to explore. And that is where I think leadership has to play a very important part, because it cannot be where the leader says, I know where I need to move as an organization, now it is for you to figure out how to make that cut. Nobody knows. Everyone is in this game together, and when a leader and an organizational leadership is able to bring that safety and that sense of openness towards learning, I think the organization starts to change.
Zaina?
Just to double click on what Mark said, a large part of it also, and I touched upon this right at the start, that entire democratization of learning. If you don't know something and you want to do it in secret, also you should be able to, so that tomorrow when you come back to the table, you know it. And that ability is the other part which a lot of organizations are allowing for. So that, because you're working in an environment that is so fast paced, there is no way you're going to know everything on day one. So that ability to do it on your own, at your own pace, and then come back to the table saying, now I know it, or at least some amount to be able to give some input, is the other sort of aspect that leaders also need to be open to sort of doing in these kind of organizations.
Thank you, Zarina. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've had a very, very insightful discussion. I think we could probably go on and on, but yes, we have a time constraint. So thank you very much, Trevor, Ruchi, and Zarina. We've had an absolutely excellent panel discussion. And I think one thing that we could sort of take away from here is that nowhere is there a threat in terms of where we're looking at jobs. It's an opportunity. And we are talking about the right balance between machine and human. It's everywhere the human element is prime. So I think when we are looking at the future work in BFSI, the opportunities, threats, I don't see that one should look at it as a threat from a threat to oneself. It's basically an opportunity to learn. And in fact, 1990s was a great example that technology does not diminish human potential. In fact, it amplifies and it provides organization and the people to adapt. So today's wave that we're seeing of AI and machine learning is all about us wanting to adapt. And things will move on. I mean, I don't think anyone is going to lose their jobs. We heard about that, it's going to be an enabler. We have to be enablers. Technology has to be an enabler. If you look at it from a point of view of that, is this something we're going to fear? Well, then onus is on us. I mean, learning and development today, I think we heard about that the initiative has to come from us. And that's one way of sort of retaining your space, because if you don't grow, you're not going to sort of remain. Technology is moving very fast. But one thing is also very clear is that there is a very huge trust element. I think everyone touched upon the fact of trust. And trust is human. I mean, trust is not a machine. Trust is human. And that element is very, very important. And I think this is something which, Rajiv, in your talk, you talked about something that emotional intelligence is going to be important. I think each one of them did touch upon that at the end of the day, irrespective of whether it is, a machine that is, going to be governing things, there's a human element, but over and above that, it's emotional intelligence. I think at the best of it, I don't think even if you replicate in a machine, the emotional intelligence that we as humans have is finally going to, really run the whole play for us. So I think with that, we conclude this session. We have a few minutes, I'm told, for question and answers, one or two maybe. So if there's anyone from the audience who wants to have a questions for our eminent panelists, please do raise your hands. We have time only for one or two questions, I'm told. Any questions from the audience? Well, I think we've done a good job, and I think, or we've done a very bad job. But anyway, thank you so much. I thank each one of you very much for coming in. I think you really gave us a big insight into what you'll do and in the space of BFSI. And I think the audience has learned a lot. I thank Vidya Lankar. I thank all you students and all the esteemed industry leaders who are sitting here and faculty members. Thank you so much for an opportunity for having this discussion. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a heartfelt thank you to all our esteemed speakers for sharing their experiences, insights, and predictions that will shape the future of work in the BFSI sector. I now request Dr. Sangeeta Joshi, Principal of VIT, to kindly present a token of appreciation to our panel speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to one and all present here. I am Ms. Poonam Singh, Assistant Professor at Vidyalankar School of Information Technology, and it gives me immense pleasure and a great sense of privilege to be your anchor for the second panel discussion of the HR Summit. Technology today is not just an enabler, it is the heartbeat of transformation. As we step deeper into an era shaped by cloud computing, artificial intelligence, automation, robotics, and intelligent systems, the future of IT is being written in real time. And this panel is all about decoding that future. So now, let us move into our much awaited panel discussion on coding the future of IT in the era of cloud, AI, and automation. Allow me to introduce our distinguished panel speakers. Our first panel speaker is Mr. Abhishek Agarwal, Head BFS Delivery India at Tech Mahindra. Mr. Agarwal brings with him decades of deep expertise in IT services, digital transformation, and enterprise modernization. He has held leadership positions at global giants such as Mphasis, IBM, and Infosys. Driving mission critical programs across India, the Middle East, and APAC. Throughout his career, he has led large scale transformation initiatives powered by AI, RPA, cloud platforms, advanced analytics, and next generation core banking technologies. Widely respected for bridging technology with business outcomes, he is known for accelerating innovation, strengthening operational excellence, and cultivating high performance teams driven by continuous learning and talent development. Welcome, Mr. Abhishek Agarwal. Anyways. Next up is Mr. Prasad Kulkarni, National Head, Sales and Business Development at Reliance Communications Limited. A telecom and process industry veteran, he brings over 31 years of diverse experience spanning enterprise voice, global data connectivity, international service enablement, data center hosting, cloud services, banking technologies, and process automation. Mr. Kulkarni has worked closely with top corporates, OTT platforms, MNCs, SMEs, and global service providers, building technology solutions that have transformed the digital capability of organizations worldwide. He is also academically inclined as a visiting faculty for technology and networking domains at leading institutions and is an accomplished writer with articles published in the Economic Times and other reputed platforms. Welcome, Mr. Prasad Kulkarni. Yes. Next up is Mr. Sunil Bhatia, Associate Partner, BFSI at IBM India. Mr. Sunil Bhatia is a senior business leader with over 28 years of experience in sales management, consulting, partner ecosystems, and strategic technology transformation for the BFSI sector. His core strengths include consultative selling, contract negotiation, digital transformation, cloud solutions, AI driven modernization, and enterprise security for major banks and corporates across India and South Asia. He has worked with world leading organizations such as FIS Global, Pitney Bowes, Cisco, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, Thomson Reuters, and many others. Mr. Bhatia is also a recipient of prestigious awards, including recognition at HP's Global Chairman's Club for Sales Excellence. He holds an MMS in Marketing and a Bachelor of Engineering, reflecting his strong foundation in both technology and strategic leadership. Welcome, Mr. Sunil Bhatia. Next up is Miss Vijaya Agarkar, Region Head West Membership at NASCOM. Miss Vijaya is a seasoned leader with over 25 years of experience in member engagement, strategic partnerships, and technology ecosystem development. As Region Head West Membership at NASCOM, she drives collaboration across IT services, GCCs, startups, BPM, and SMEs, while reinforcing key industry initiatives. She has held multiple roles at Tech Mahindra, Accenture, and Capgemini, along with global experience across France, UK, Middle East, and Southeast Asia, earning multiple awards in sales and management. An electronics and telecommunications engineer, she remains deeply aligned with the tech sector she passionately represents. Welcome, Ms. Vijaya Agarkar. Our next distinguished speaker and the moderator for this session is Mr. Tushar Desai, Senior Director, Talent Acquisition for India and APAC at FIS Global. Mr. Desai brings over 2 decades of rich HR experience across talent acquisition, talent management, HR services, and employee centric organizational development. For more than 20 years at FIS Global, he has played a pivotal role as a hands on HR leader, passionately building human capital capability across geographies. His expertise lies in engineering workforce structures, developing talent pipelines, strengthening leadership capabilities, and nurturing a culture of innovation, inclusivity, and high performance. His ability to align people, processes, skills, and systems with business goals has contributed significantly to the global success of the organization. Welcome, Mr. Tushar Desai.
Thank you to Vidyalankar, all of the esteemed guests over here, including the students. Thank you for having us over here collectively. I think so. The group over here represents almost 150 years of experience. I am privileged to actually be the moderator for such diverse and deep experienced professionals, right? Without any much ado, one of the things that we had kind of decided as a group before we could start off this panel discussion was to have very lively audience engagement, right? One of the things which I possibly saw in the past panel was, there was very little time left for, questions from the audience, right? So I think one of the things that we want to do is we will continuously interact in the interim with the audience. In case if you have any questions, we'll take them and we'd like to share our experiences across, right? So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you all. Thank you. Right. As you can see, the topic of our discussion and great interaction by the prior panel, right? Some key themes which were touched upon was trust, was ethics, was around how do we really bring the balance between in this AI age between the machines and the humans, right? How do we really transform into the new age that we are all experiencing, right? And it's a great segue into our topic, because as Abhishek was, since he was seated right next to me, he was speaking on this. There's a lot of overlap between the three panels, if you really see, right? And just so that we keep the discussion afresh, we would want to possibly take out and dig deep into the experiences rather than speak more on the topic itself, right? So as you know, our topic is coding for the future of IT. I'm assuming most of you all are associated with VIT and are technology graduates over here or affiliated with that. That's an assumption, right? in the era of cloud, AI, and automation. I mean, who has not heard of these terms in today's time, right? AI is the buzzword. You know, I would be surprised if most of you, if not all of you, don't have a Chat GPT app on your phones, right? Just to take immediate help towards any of your daily needs, if I can put, not issues as such, right? In fact, just before I embarked on the journey to reach here, right, it takes me about 45-50 minutes to reach from my place to this place, right? I kind of quickly use the help of ChatGPT to possibly help me with some of the questions for today's for today's session, and you know, it should really help us because I was amazed with what I really found, right? So first question to the panel, right? And if I can start with yourself, right? And obviously everybody else can contribute, right? Since you interact with a lot of CIOs and CDOs, Chief Information Officers, Chief Digital Officers, or possibly CTOs, Chief Technology Officers, right? If the core technical work, which is maintenance, deployment, scaling, etc., becomes automated by AI ops, right? Like we are seeing, right? And you deal with that because you're also interacting with likes of Sunil, who may be selling his solution to you, right? Should the CIO role evolve into a chief architecture officer focused on system design, or a chief data and ethics officer focused on intelligence governance? Very important, because trust was the anchor of the last panel discussion. You know, we kept on checking around the guardrails, around the ethics side of AI, right? So your views on that, please, Prasad.
Hello. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Tushar. I think I liked the way you started with question which are actually correctly segueing into from the previous panel discussion as well as the keynote. Well, when we talk about the CIO role, I think I'm just going maybe 2 steps behind that question. Essentially, when we talk about AI today, or you know, the roles that are required to be redefined, etc., we have to look at the 2 types of architectures that need to be handled. One is at the front end and one is at the back end. When we talk about front end, we are essentially talking about the workflows, right? So when we say, I don't know how much time we have. I'll just take a little more minute. Essentially, when we talk about the front end, that is the workflows, there are again 2 ways of approaching the AI challenge in the context of that front end. One is a very lazy way. A lazy way is something wherein you are simply replacing the people with whatever processor you can straight away replace with, right? That is a very lazy way. That is not going to yield the result to the extent of the hype that we see today in the media and all over, surely. The better way is to kind of, you know, redefine your workflows, re-architect your workflows so that you can optimize the core benefits that AI is actually extending and offering to you. Okay, now that is about the front end aspect of it. And now going to the back end aspect of it, when I say a lot of things are not visible to you and me when we typically use ChatGPT and applications, large language model applications that we very frequently happen to get into, is what is happening at the back end. For example, just one critical element, there are many, but just one critical element is a storage. Now, the legacy storage architecture is not going to prevail in the current scheme of things at all, simply because LMM induces a lot of multiple mega queries and loads the system, storage system with them. So essentially that storage system also needs to get hugely re-architected. in terms of enabling or providing it with say metadata engines, classification tools, or vector engineering and things like that. Okay, so I'm not getting into too much technicality. That is not the context of the discussion. But when I try to look at these two aspects in the context of what Tushar asked, yes, the CIO role has to really consider and evolve in both these contexts. So when he talked, he gave me an option of whether CIO role should evolve in one direction or the other. I would say it needs to get evolved in both the directions in a equally urgent and profound manner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I can just go over to Vijaya, right? Basis what Prasad has just shared, right? Since you also are representing NASSCOM, which is the broader industry platform that we have, right? What are you seeing from across the industry, at different maturity levels as far as the role of the CIO really transforming into either, say, a chief ethics officer or something that, what is the transformation really looking like from a NASSCOM lens? If you can share your experience around this.
Okay. Hi, Tusha. Thank you, everyone, for having me here, and thanks, Vidyalanka. So to continue with what Prasad also said, I mean, he spoke from the business and CIO perspective, but when I represent NASSCOM, which is representing the overall tech industry. So with AI, definitely the ethics and all that is definitely there, which the CIOs has to look forward to. But again, I'll take a step back, not just from the CIO's lens, but from the organization's lens. There are a lot of changes and the emerging technologies which are coming up now that needs to be seen. It's not a standard program or project how we used to do a couple of decades ago with the standard requirement management, and also the expectations from customers were very different. But with the advent of new technologies which are there, even the customers expectations in terms of their responses or the intelligence which they want in their responses, which need to be added by technology, is there. And that's why the organizations have to take care of the new technologies to see that the customer experience is there perfectly. And it can't be just managed with AI or just with human, but a very good combination of human using AI in a right way. So that is now a basis for all of the upcoming work or upcoming roles which is expected.
Thanks, Vijaya. And I'll keep on bouncing back to you for deeper insights from an NASSCOM perspective, right? My next one is possibly for you, Abhishek, right? One of the things that we have seen is, let's take the CrowdStrike example, right? Where companies who had invested on it, continuing to invest heavily on the cloud side of it, right? I mean, we are moving from on-prem to cloud almost at different stages. People are at 30%, 50%, 60%, whatever, right? But there is this red flag which has been taken up, so if you are going to be all 100%, an event like CrowdStrike, which happened approximately a year prior or something like that, right, can bring you back to the Stone Ages, right? You would be writing tickets by hand or something like that, right? Since you're representing the business side of it, right, at your organization currently and otherwise, right? What's been your experience of the conversations that are happening around leadership and the board, right? Around how do we find that balance? Do we put all eggs in and move completely lock, stock, barrel in cloud, or do we find a balance around it?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me here. And then I think the question is relevant because of two reasons. One, the security aspect of it, which anyways, we can't do away with whether we go with A technology or B technology. So I think every time we talk about any new technology coming in, there are a lot of these security aspects which sometimes gets missed out, sometimes are overlooked, sometimes are not taken into the consideration itself. So CrowdStrike or even the ransomware or anything else, right, which we often get to see, which we often get to hear about, is always a talk of the discussion of the town that we are operating in, right? So whether it is the customer which we deal with in the space of BFSI, like the earlier panel was talking, or any other customer segment, industry segment, like the logistics or anything else. The problem over here is not about taking a decision to move complete lock and barrel and lock, stock and barrel to the cloud, but the problem over here is how do we balance it, and balance it in a way that, one, we are not taking any decision in the haste of moving it. We have our own architecture and the structures of the organizations in place to take care of anything of this sort. The zero trust policy is must have for any of the organization, because the role based access, the zero trust policy, we always keep talking about it, but when it comes to implementation, you'll always get that one VIP who would like to have everything on their fingertips. And all these kind of things are the loopholes which generally are exploited when it comes to the market, right? And CrowdStrike or the ransomware of the things are not something which is happening from outside. Actually, it is somebody from the inside of the organization who has not taken care of the stuff which he or she was supposed to take care of. They have exposed their data. They have been to an international site without even taking care of the VPNs, which are provided by the companies, or they have actually accessed any of the sites which they were not supposed to access. And it happens to a lot of people, right? So the idea is not about, you know, refraining from moving ahead and exploring it. The idea is around how do we balance it out so that we have a equal emphasis on the security aspects of it. At the same time, we move forward and leverage all these latest and greatest of the technologies which are coming into the picture, because obviously you can't do away with what we are seeing in the market, but definitely you can prepare yourself to embrace the new technologies while keeping a balance in the risk appetite that we can actually expose ourselves to. So I think this is how I'll keep it.
Sure. Does any of the panel member want to add on to this, Sunil? 'Cause I have a follow-up question also on that, and I would want to bounce it off to you. But if you'd like to possibly contribute more on that.
Is this okay? So I had certain pointers to what
Of course.
the first question you had.
Of course,
The evolution of
the CIO.
right. So I think the I'd say the tipping point has been that a CIO maybe a 5 or 7 years ago used to depend on multiple people for data points. Very realistically. Now with we have systems we have where you just pointed out on your phones itself, your ability to take decisions becomes faster. What uh, now there comes the point of taking a decision which is appropriate to the environment is something which is most critical. Because AI basically is technology. Technology, what I see is either black or white. There is nothing in between, and that's where the role transformation is critical. Uh, and the CIO, as I said, AI comes into play. And AI, I'm just doing some demystification. I have some my own nomenclatures which I follow. So AI is artificial intelligence. The intelligence is injected from IQ, that is intelligence quotient as we call it. But the human part of emotion doesn't come in an IQ. So that's why I say an AI has to be in combination with an HI, HA, and HE. HI is human intervention, human emotion, and then human augmentation. So these three things sum up to making the CIO's role more relevant in the current scheme of things, rather than avoid, if we do just allow technology to just take all the shots or calls, I think that makes a lot of difference. So that's why I think one pointer which I just wanted to add to what Sir just mentioned earlier. That's what my observation was. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question for you, Sue. Historically, IT spend and I'll come, Abhishek, take your views as well with you on this one. This is a very critical one. Historically, IT spend has been on capital allocation or capex on hardware, right? Building data centers, and Google has just invested a lot in the Andhra capital, Vizag, right? Today, the choice is between buying cloud services on an OpEx model, and investing heavily in internal AI/ML talent, something that we are doing and not possibly doing, right? To build proprietary solutions, which allocation path, external services or internal intelligence, presents the greater strategic risk or reward over the next 5 years? Let's bring it down the next 2 to 3 years, if not 5 years.
All right, that's a good question. So just I'll cite some real experiences.
Absolutely, because
Uh,
you come from IBM. That's
right.
why.
Right. Thanks. So two parts to the story. One is let's look at any infrastructure basically attracts investments from a capex, the underlying people to manage the asset and to run it maybe over, as I said, you said 2 to 5 years. Let's keep it for 5 years at this point of time. It basically demands that you are presuming that there is a fixed volume growth over a period of 5 years. That basically, what should I say, limits the investment to that visibility. I mean, with what Sir just was mentioning, an AI situation coming into an organization will demand a lot of compute.
Yeah.
It will demand a lot of storage because whatever transactions you converge or interact in basic terms, the questions which we posed on the system itself gets captured in the system, and then that's where the storage requirement keeps on ballooning up. Now, if you're looking at, I will then put it that this is the premise on which you think about. There are two, as I said, there are two stories here. Now, organizations, from a business standpoint, if you say that I will want my customer experience, I'll put it customer experience to be growing fantastically well over the next 5 years. The business call typically will be customer centric. I will put it that way. But now customer trusts the entity, because I think the other panel gave a very good baseline. Banking financial services is the most regulated vertical in industry as against any other of the be it media or anything else. So it becomes imperative to have the data or the inputs which are shared securely. Now, when the perception is when you put the data in your own environment or own premise is the safest place where your data is. So that customer experience can we do a little of saying that I will do a little of dilution there? That's a business call which comes into play, and that's where it says that we should ideally customer centric investments should be on premise, whereas organizational processes, I would say the applications can still be on cloud, but the data should typically reside the premise. So I mean, my school of thought is that the way forward is hybrid, because data security is pertinent and it is on premise the most easiest way as against putting on cloud, because you are not only giving it to a third party, but you are giving somebody else the world to say, okay, my data is here now. There's a set of hackers sitting somewhere in some part of the world who says, let's just kind of an economy which is growing at 8-9%, let's kind of make it kind of eliminate or kill it. So it becomes imperative to take that call, and I think that's where the difference comes in.
Sure. Prasad, your views?
Yeah. Well, the question or the decision between capex and opex, that's the question. And what sir just mentioned about the concerns around the security, the customer facing data should be on-prem, and whatever best way possible, we can probably outsource the other data. So these two elements just trying to club together. Just going to the second aspect first. I still remember in way back in 2003, I ended up selling a data center service for a public sector bank. That was the first instance an Indian public sector bank probably availing the data center services on a large scale. That was for Union Bank of India. I incidentally proud to share that Mr. Mukesh Ambani had congratulated me on that occasion. Point I'm trying to say, Union Bank of India, when they invested in a data center with a third party, they invested only the secondary data center. The primary was always on-prem. They had their primary in Nariman Point and only the secondary that went to get hosted in Bengaluru. So that approach has been very well followed, strictly followed. I'm sure because banking is highly regulatory, even the other customer sensitive companies are following that kind of approach, and which is a right way of going about. What Tushar also mentioned about the OPEX model versus CAPEX model. See, I'll tell you, it really depends on how you look at what important. It again depends on what kind of organization or a company we are talking about. Are we talking about a very large manufacturing or process-driven organization, or we are talking about a SME kind of a setup? When Ubers and Airbnbs were very nascent organizations, you know, struggling to get into the marketplace and make their mark, probably they wouldn't have made the mark they have had AWS not been there. They really didn't have any funding in the initial days, obviously, and they really didn't have, any capability and capacity to invest something which is in-house, which is CapEx based. So the success of AWS, if you really see, is also linked to the embracement of their offering by the market, especially by the startup ecosystem. Okay. So what the point that I'm trying to get across is, if you are a workflow centric organization, it is important that you have it on-prem, you have it CapEx, you go CapEx way. But if you can manage with the agentic systems, wherein large part of your processes and your requirements are getting fulfilled through a standard off-the-shelf kind of a model, why not go for it? And that model really works for some organizations which are, in a startup stage, or they are kind of they are having a standard requirements in a normal business scenarios, etc., etc. See, the industry, any industry, whether it is a FMCG or it is your IT industry, AI industry, they will always come out, the giants therein will always come out with something which is standardized. Because nobody is here really very interested beyond a point to create some customization. They would like to create products, make copies of them, sell those copies and make money. That is the right way of doing. In every industry you will find this will follow. So, and that force cannot be controlled. Let's admit that. So one should make the most of both ways, and it really depends on which space you are sitting. That would decide whether you will go only CapEx way, only OpEx way, or a hybrid of the two, or initially you will go with the OpEx way, eventually will migrate to the CapEx way. Okay. So Uber is incidentally, when they were really big enough, Hyderabad based account, they were, we had sold them some services, some toll-free number, etc. So in that sense, I really realized the way they were talking about probably, moving their entire hosting ecosystem from cloud to on-prem. They were contemplating on that. Why I'm trying to bring that example out here is because at one point of time, their thoughts were different. When they got a scale, they got funding, they became a brand by themselves. They thought of something which is probably more relevant from their position in the market, from the customer data that they were sitting on and things like that. That's the approach I would like to take.
Sure. My next one is for you, Vijay, and if you can again emphasize it more from an ASCOM perspective, because that's the deeper industry-wide knowledge that we would want to have, right? And this is around talent, right? So, this question. Here it is. Assuming basic coding is automated, what new curriculum of philosophical skill set, and I did hear that possibly the keynote speaker spoke about emotional intelligence, and over here as well as the prior panel was speaking about human machine, kind of joint dance, right? What would you, recommend, or what are you seeing that universities and institutes like Vidyalankar, really do as far as prioritizing, this balance, in their curriculums, especially because lower level jobs in large tech organizations at least are disappearing because of the impact of AI and automation, right? So what is it that industry is doing? What is it that NASCOM is recommending, right? And Abhishek, if you can possibly follow up.
Very relevant question in the current time. And as NVIDIA CEO had said that with AI, everybody is a programmer right now. And I remember my days like in like early 2000s, even you all will agree to that. Like we had to learn every time new language, the coding patterns and everything right from scratch. There would be highly any level of reusability at that time. Versus now, wherein any school person, like school student, is also able to write beautiful programs with AI. So can we say that automation, more and more automation is going to just kill the jobs and nothing left for humans? No, because as you were talking about that example of, say, L1 level customer service executive, he or she will like in the current times, in the times when there was no AI, he or she was taking the calls, understand what is the, say, order status, what is the refund status, the product reaching time, or any other queries or errors. With AI now being there in the system, all of these are being taken care of by the system, AI itself. So the QA engineer, Jua QA engineer, or the L1 support people, all those jobs are definitely there at the risk. And that is how we are also hearing about more and more more and more people getting laid off by the tech organizations. But we should also look forward to what are the different other new opportunities which are coming here. Okay, L1 support is not there, but that person can upgrade. The reskill and upskill point that the first panel was also talking about is now very important, because all of those people need to understand what are the upgrade options for them. Maybe that person can go into the analytical role to go into the level 2 or level 3 level of support, or somebody who is into QA, that job is gone, go into more of the manual work wherein the human intelligence is coming in picture. So there are, if that we are saying X number of jobs are getting like laid off because of AI and the new automation technologies, there are many more. Even say 0.8 of X are still coming up there in the market. So how the colleges and all should look into for upskilling their students. Like even my niece is doing the engineering. She's in the final year of AI. So even I was very curious to understand, Kitike, what are you learning in AI and how is it actually going to be useful for her to be job ready? So it's yeah, there are many colleges who are having such emerging technologies at the specialization, but we have to also look into the job applicability. Is it only a pure play technology that we are training, or is it based on the job roles which are required? Like our India government, we have the NSQF, National Skill Qualification Framework, and also NOS, the jobs which are gonna be there with these new technologies. Are the courses in the colleges applied or relevant as per the job roles is what we have to look forward to, and not just the technology trainings. As somebody in the first panel also talked about, the professional skills or the behavioral skills are very much important, which not many academias are taking care of. For example, Java, AI, cloud and all, सब कुछ आता है, but does that student know how to get smoothly gel up in the corporate environment, how to take care of the problem management or conflict management, what is design thinking? So all of these aspects are also very much important, which the academias can think about adding to their courses. These may not be the compulsory courses, but some additional rewards can be given. The point credit basis should be there in the academia, which can also encourage those students to go for more trainings from the job perspective, job readiness perspective.
Sure. I'll just bring it on to you, Abhishek, because you possibly represent and are a leader for a large workforce, right? So obviously, right from the entire employee life cycle is your responsibility, right? One of the things that we are seeing very clearly in large corporates across the board is the ability to use AI, right? AI fluency in the entire workflow itself, right? Even with current employees, right? How has your organization, or what is your experience otherwise as well, right? Around people using AI not just as a helping tool, right? But really to do creative stuff, right? Especially because this is a very critical question, you know, and if you can give me from this nuance, right? That we are using AI today towards, you know, possibly enhancing the output of what we want, right? But if we continue to use that, say for the next 5 years, because 5 years is the benchmark that we've kind of kept, right? It's going to be self-deprecating also, because AI is finally reproducing from LLMs, right? And you know, it's the same, how do I say, the same material, just you know, reproducing again and again, right? What is the risk that we have? You know, what is the risk that you see, real-time business risk that you see as a people leader right now?
So I'll just take a step back before answering this question. Okay. So first is on the previous one which you asked for, right? See why we actually are into this field. I think the one question which generally is left unanswered when we are in academia is why is there a job in place first, right? The job is not in place because it has to be in place, but it is because there is a problem which is to be solved. And the problem is a genuine problem for that kind of business that you are getting into, right? And if that problem can be solved by a L1 person, for example, you'll go out and we'll get the L1 person. If that job can be automated using a technology like RPAs, which is still prevalent, right? Which is where the third part is on the automation, or there are a lot of automation tools in the market. You'll go and get the person with that skill, or you will train that person for that skill, right? And so on and so forth. You can go on to the latest and the greatest of the skills, depending upon what is the relevance of that particular problem in the life of people and how critical and complex that problem is, right? So technology is only an enabler, whether it is AI or automation or cloud. At the end of the day, the job is in place because there is a problem to be solved. You talk about Zeptos of the world. I don't think so. People have written them off, when they launched it for the first time, that, oh, who the hell needs the grocery in 10 minutes, right? Ambulance doesn't reach even in 5 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours. And in Mumbai, I can't even tell you, what time it can take. But then today, everybody is in the race of launching those 10 minutes, groceries to lifestyles to, beauties to everything. But then again, the job is not about whether I should learn A or I should learn B. The job is about whether I am solving problem A or problem B, right? So that is first part on the previous one. And the second part is how often do we reflect at our own on ourselves whether we are really being relevant in the place where we are. The jobs are not getting lost because of anybody else coming in and telling you, boss, sorry, you're not required. It is because we ourselves are not doing that checkpoint on us whether we are still relevant in this field of what we are operating in, right? So I remember a person coming back and telling me, there are no logistic related projects and programs in our organization, which I was representing previously. But the person was very good with the common sense. And I'm telling you, the common sense is very difficult to find these days, right? So that person was very good with the common sense. And I proposed him to start exploring one another area. And after 3 years, I get a call surprisingly from that person. And he says, sir, this is wonderfully doing well because I was able to implement a program in insurance space, despite being from a logistic space, which is entirely different from what we do in insurance. So the point is whether we are checking those relevancy in ourselves. And if we are not, and if we are not upgrading at our own, then I think there is a risk. And that is where I'm now coming to what you have asked for. The question is, how as a large organization, we are taking care of, our people and how they are, being relevant. So I think there are these checkpoints which we keep doing, right? And that's why I've given that example of why we moved this from, logistics to insurance is because we keep doing those checkpoints, and it is actually a responsibility of the people managers for these people to keep doing those checkpoints, and there's higher ups to the higher ups and to the top, that there are those career conversations, there are those checkpoints in place which keeps people informed about what is happening in the market, what is coming up across, and where we see the things are moving. So we as an organization, for example, right? So recently, I'm sure if you would have heard, I think you would anyways know, Vijay, is this India AI mission, right? Which Tech Mahindra is also part of, right? And we are creating something which is like a LLM, and we have been the first one who have created this Indus AI project of ours, wherein we have created this LLM on multilingual model. And then the thing that we are doing right now is to get our people hands-on onto the agentic AI platform Orion that we have recently launched, right, with the NVIDIA. Now, why we are doing all this is because we know that things are changing and things are changing rapidly. If we do not enable our people, if we do not do those kind of checkpoints, the people will obviously start getting lost in this entire, circle of automation to cloud to AI to blockchain and so on and so forth. So you have to keep them relevant. So you have to invest in them. And at the same time, the second part was about, whether I am doing my own checkpoint as an employee. So that is equally important, because if I'm not doing that checkpoint and if I'm not being part of all those kind of initiatives, I'm anyways losing my relevance, and I would be very much in the kitty of being, shown the door when the time comes in. So I don't want to see those people, wherein they have not been keeping the pace with the things which are happening, and they are happy with what they have been doing. And I keep telling this to my team that somebody who has been riding a bicycle for 30 years can't be said you have become now pro, right? Because at the end of the day, it's only a bicycle that you have been riding, that too the same bicycle that we used to have at less. So better we start upgrading ourselves from bicycle to even if it is gear, even if it is marathons that we run and all those kind of things, at least we explore ourselves into the different areas, right? And then we figure out where we actually want to invest our time in. So I think that is how I'll put it.
Absolutely. And a great, extension to the point that the prior panel was trying to make, around the learning and development budgets shrinking or not being enough or just being a little bit here and there, right? Everybody is a chief learning officer, right? So that's a great re-emphasis that you have done, right? I'll just take a pause for any audience questions, because that's what we had collectively agreed upon. We'll give a lot of time to the audience to ask us questions. I do have a bunch of other questions. I think, yeah.
So, good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for having us here for Vidya Lankar. So my question is like,
Sorry,
did-
please, the question is for.
for everyone.
Okay.
So I just wanted to know that what today nowadays we have this debate between data ownership and data control. Like you're giving the data to the organization, now they control it. So who should have the upper hand of the data? And also, where do you see a trade-off between the user experience of the final beneficiary, and where is the line that the privacy, should be there? Like no more data should be personal data should be used. So how do you see that?
I'll give an extension to the gentleman's question, right? Uh, Obviously, his question is around who's the owner of the data. Whose data is it? Right. Great question. Um, I will give a extension to that. Say something goes south, right? And anything can go south. Uh, who should be held responsible, right? Should it be the engineer who has kind of coded that? Should it be the supervisor or the person who has done the QC, or should it be the CIO himself or herself? Any of you can, or all of you all can possibly respond to him.
Well, good question. I wanted this question to come out because that's very, very relevant. They say that data is oil, and typically oil is owned by somebody who mines the oil. But in the case of data, that is not so. In case of data, I believe, and I'm sure a lot of people should believe that um, in the data, the person who is central to that data, that person should own that data, or that entity should own that data. If data is about, I think last panel also mentioned about it, your anniversary, your birth date, etc. So if it is your anniversary, it is your birth date, it is you who is central to the entire data. So nobody else, without a very, very clear and defining, I mean, nobody should really be touching that data unless and until that person has given a clear consent. That's the point. So I hope that addresses what you want to ask, right?
Anyone else wants to respond on this question?
No, I think just I'll extend to what Prasad said is, see, I think the data and there are laws also, right, which are coming up in India as well, right? So the data belongs to the person for whom that data belongs. That is for sure. And if you have not given a consent, that means this data is still with you. But if you've given a consent, that doesn't mean the ownership is actually shifted. But at the same time, the risk is also increased, right? So the person who is taking the consent has to also ensure this data is kept sacrosanct without compromising on the security of that data, which is actually the first question which I answered on, right? The security aspects of it, right? Recently, there are a lot of big organizations which has been in news because of the data being, leaked, hacked, whatever. So you can't blame any one person for any of these leakages. Actually, it is an ecosystem which has to work together to ensure the data is actually kept secured for anybody and everybody, whether it is my personal data, whether it is organization's personal data, right? Because everybody has some or the other access to somebody else's data in today's world, right? So you might be using, a lot of such informations of your, peers, your colleagues, your student friends, so on and so forth. How do you share that data? Because I remember, a lot of people using those ID cards in old previous days for the corporate discounts while they were in the colleges, right? And those visiting ID cards were offering you like 25% discounts on pizzas and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it was also having your personal mobile number, your personal email IDs or the official email IDs, which was actually being used and, processed by people. So you choose to use that despite the person is not giving you the consent of using it. Correct. So I think that's where the entire line is, right? So where we choose that line to be drawn is actually on us. So if we choose to draw that line by saying no to sharing any of the data, and we make our systems such that, again, going back to the zero trust policy, so nobody touches those. And I think this is where we have to all collectively ensure that the data is being kept, for the purpose that it has been collected and it is safe.
Thanks. Yeah, any other question for this? Yeah, please.
Yeah, I would like to talk about the Niara Energy case and what's your perspective? We have one gentleman, Mr. Bhatia from the MNC space, and we have Mr. Kulkarni from the Indian corporate space. So, like both the perspectives here on tech sovereignty, had Niara not used Microsoft services, would or maybe used RCOM services, would they be better off? And what are we doing to provide them a complete suite of services like Microsoft does? That would be my question to you, Mr. Kulkarni. And Mr. Bhatia, my question to you would be, you are an Indian, your heart beats for India, but your parentage is from the US. Now, how do you then take a call as the India head of IBM to abide by the US regulations or US orders, or do the right thing and stand by India? Tough one for Mr. Bhatia, I would be very honest.
Just to reiterate what you mentioned, the Naira case, had it not been handled by the existing service provider and gone to some other service provider, would there have been no chaos? That is what you're asking. Nuances, I have not really gone into that case, but point is relevant. Would other service provider, had he made a difference? Possibly, yes. Certainly, he would have made a difference, either for the better or for the worse, but difference would have been there. Because if you really see in the space that I operate in, essentially my current operations focuses a lot on data centers, and I come across other data center operators also for various reasons, for understanding joint communication, etc. I realize that the deployments and the capabilities. For example, once a data center talks a lot about something called as a PUE, power utilization, factor. So that factor differs heavily from maybe 1.1 to maybe 2.5 across the organization, and it has got severe implications. This PUE per se is nothing to do with Naira per se, but point I'm trying to say here is the way the infrastructure which is supporting all these applications that we are talking about is deployed and is available in terms of its own competency, in terms of its capability, etc., differs heavily across organizations. Okay, so that is but elemental difference when we talk about two different organizations who are service providers. So definitely this difference is going to play at some point or the other, and the problem that happened, as I said, it would have probably not been as bad, or it would have been even worse.
So thank you for putting me in that position. Maybe we'll just have a kind of a conversation here. Head of Microsoft globally, head of Google. So do you see some trend?
But sir, to be very honest, and people may choose to disagree with me, but we are having a conversation here.
Sure.
I don't consider them Indians. They would have renounced the Indian passports long back.
No, I mean, so let's look at it. So to do business in a particular fashion, you are governed by guidelines. So it doesn't make any difference if I'm in this part of the world, I'm in South Asia, I'm in Europe. So that consistency of doing business, a process remains identical.
True.
We are also governed by those laws, which will, I mean, I'll tell you very fundamental things which may surprise a few people, is that at IBM, we are, when we interact with public sector entities, we cannot even, we are limited to spend not more than $50, even for taking them out for lunches or dinners.
Absolutely.
Tushar will agree
Yeah,
on
yeah.
this. So it is that maybe, on the brighter side of it, you're right, MNC, but we are governed by those kind of basic ethics which we signed off on a quarterly basis. We have what we call as the internal ethics assessment tests, in terms of saying that if you are exposed to this kind of a scenario, how would you respond? And basis that, you typically get credited and scored on a quarterly basis. So I will say you may perceive it as it's an immense, but fundamentally the way you do business is ethical. You need to stay with that, and that is where most of the scenarios you said. You may find interesting if you do a comparison with not an MNC company, you may find some differences where there might be a certain Indianness which will come into play, but where we are governed strongly by the global ethics across, so it doesn't work. Final point is, even the CEO of IBM is an Indian. So I just let you know that. So that trend is across. There is
Yeah.
nothing like, but maybe because what I see as an individual is that US organizations see a lot of that kind of culture inbuilt in most of the CEOs as Indians. Maybe they would have left their passports or something, but that culture which we take to that part of the world is appreciated, and that is generally, it brings them to that positions. So that's my personal viewpoint.
And I can
Uh,
just got
May I just extend this question? Your personal view and not as the head of IBM India. Do you think Niara was fairly treated by Microsoft? One. Two,
you, yeah,
has it impacted your business? Have Indian corporations would probably trust Arcom more than IBM for their enterprise solutions? Has the perception changed or the comfort level changed of Indian corporations?
so he's put you on a spot, but you know that.
Sorry about that again.
That's all right. That's all right. But the disclaimer over here is you're still representing IBM,
Right.
right? So even your personal views can be attributed over there, right?
Right.
So you may want to balance that out, when you're replying to them.
So it is, I'll put it is, could have been handled differently. That's first. I mean, the way it was, the transaction was taken care of, was not, could have been done better to avoid scenarios which arose after the shutdown. And you are right, but it's like no two MNCs may respond the similar way. As I was saying,
Exactly.
so I may be doing it in a particular fashion. My organization will be doing a different organization which I do not represent. I may not be able to know what is their internal guidelines. So it effectively boils down to what is your guidance from top. It may not. I mean, it may have been different. Is my assessment. So that's what I will respond to you. I mean, I hope that
Thank you.
answers your question.
You were as candid as possible. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I'll just give you a additional point on this, right? So there was this, and it doesn't come to me in specific right now, but there was this point where, there was this request from the US government to the Apple CEO, right? The current one, Tim Cook, to possibly open up the iPhone of, I think so, the Kuka bomber, that marathon bomber, right? And he said, no, I won't. Right now, it was unthinkable in India, right? Now I'm putting the hat back on you, right? If it would have been the the Reliance Geo CEO or something that, and if the Prime Minister of India would have, or the Home Minister of India would have requested, boss, can you open up this? And if you would have said no, I'm telling you, he would have been branded an anti-national. I'm telling you that, right? So he worked within the ethical boundary of Apple. Apple is known for data security. Apple is known for a brilliant combination of hardware plus software, right? And he said, boss, this is my USP in the market. That's the trust which the clients have on me, right? So I'm not going to be doing that unless you're going to pass a motion in their parliament or senate, as they call it, right? So it all boils down to that ethics side of it, right? So that I'll just conclude my view on this. All right.
Anybody else wants to contribute with me?
Not the topic.
All righty. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, please, Deepa.
Yeah, my question, Tushar, is to you because you represent a talent acquisition function of FIS Global, which is a fintech organization, and you have a long service record of almost 20 plus years with FIS Global.
Yep.
So from HR perspective, there is a lot of automation, IT, cloud AI has happened in HR.
Right.
So give us your perspective as to how much HR function has changed within your organization or in general, because you're authority to comment on it
Right.
with the era of cloud AI automation, and also from the finance perspective, so that whenever fresher students, they approach organization like FIS Global or in the same league, what kind of competencies they should prepare themselves on, hands on, so that they are work ready for such organizations. And this question is on behalf of all my students because they're eager to learn, know.
All right. Thank you for the question. In fact, that was my follow-up question for Vijaya. What is it that Tascom is thinking as far as the new skills is concerned, right? So I'll come to that, but because this is more specific around FIS and what we are doing here in HR, right? So just prior to coming back into TA, I set up the global HR shared services, right? And that's why it is relevant to this question, right? One of the things that we have done in most of the large organizations of repute, not only in the tech space, but even otherwise are doing is eliminating generalist roles, right? We have completely eliminated the role of HR generalists, as we know, right? And that's what I think my conversation with the panel, the informal conversation was left abruptly before we came up, right? Is what essentially does, giving you an example, pivoting around the generalist function, right? What do we do, right? As generalists, right? What we call as HR partners, not the business partners, but partners, right? Is play a bridging role for the client need with the specialized functions within HR, TA, comp and ben, etc., whatever, right? And if you're going to be putting in a world-class case management system like ServiceNow, we use ServiceNow. There are others also, right? And which have an agent which can mimic a human right from the emotion side of it also, right? And which gives you predictive and prescriptive side also, right? You don't need that because that's the first window where you reach out for any query, right? So example, you may have a query around, say, a letter request, which most of us need, around a payroll, pay slip request, whatever it is, right? You don't need to go to anybody for that, right? You just log into that system. When is the last time any of you would have spoken to somebody from a Swiggy, Amazon, or Zepto or anything like that, right? You just go onto an app, right, and do whatever you want to, right? Even the complaint is lodged via an app. It's an Uberized experience that comes through, right? So there's a lot of agentic AI intervention which is happening across all the sub functions of HR as of now when I'm talking to you. Any of my high volume hiring that we do, right? When I say high volume, it is low skill, bottom of the pyramid hiring, right? Where you don't use simple combination skills, right? It's an agent which is doing it end to end, right? From sourcing, screening, interview scheduling, right up to the offer stage. We have kept the offer stage with us, otherwise even that could have been automated, right? To your specific question, across the board, not only within HR, finance, IT, right? Across the board, right? And I'm quoting what the Salesforce CEO had said last year, right? We are stopping all entry level hiring, right? So we are not doing that, right? Obviously, right? But the pyramid is shifting from pyramid to a diamond, right? The entry level jobs are going to be far and few, right? And those are required because, where will you get the next level of leadership? Everything is going to be done by the agent, right? But there is and that's what we say during our campus engagement as well, right? Whether it's here or otherwise, right? My question to Abhishek was precisely that, right? What are you doing towards AI fluency, right? How is it that you are equipping yourself towards the changing job scenario, right? Don't look at from an IT standpoint, right? Don't look at jobs within testing or QC or something like that, right? That QC part which Vijaya was referring to is now gone into SDET, right? There's programming happening within that space, within the automation plus QC space, right? The DevOps part of it, and you have gentlemen who really are in that business of selling it, right? Moved up to SRE, right? The CI/CD is now happening at a much different sphere in SRE, site reliability engineering, right? So that's how the jobs are evolving, right? As a student, I would, which Abhishek was alluding to, I would be really invested in absolute AI proficiency in what I'm doing, right? And what Sundar Pichai said, right? You have to learn an adjacent skill along with your primary skill. So if you're in finance, right, you may want to learn about risk, right? If you are in HR, you may want to learn about IT, right? Moderna has kind of merged HR and IT, this thing, because your ability to work through a system, even as an HR professional, right, is going to be counted as a plus, not your knowledge and all of it. That's just a chat GPT prompt away, right? As we say, vibe coding is being contested because whether it's creating more engineers or it's creating more prompters, right? Is it encouraging prompting or really hardcore engineering? So stick to your basics. All the leaders, NVIDIA leader, Sundar Pichai, Satya Nadella, all of them are saying stick to your basics, stats, physics, STEM, all of it, mathematics, all of it, because that's going to really help you crack into the next level of jobs. I hope I've answered from an FIS perspective. Right? Anybody wants to contribute to that? Maybe?
I think Tushar mentioned about STEM, so that just prompts me to add, because some time back I had an article on this. Just a minute. Probably it is a time that we all need to really shift from STEM to STEAM. That A which gets added is attributed to liberal arts. So that liberal arts is still an arena which is not as much touched by AIs of the world today, and that eventually it will, but that is something which is very central. It is probably is very central to what what impact we can bring about as professionals. So as Tushar has mentioned, that you must embrace something beyond what you do. It is very critical, and if at all you can get an opportunity, just try to build some kind of a liberal art related skill into your portfolio. That is bound to be of tremendous help. Let me tell you, that is bound to be of a great help. And that is like, if you see the Accentures of the world today, who are they are recruiting? They are also recruiting people who are designing their front ends, the designers. The people who are qualifying from design schools are getting absorbed heavily into these kind of companies. So that is going to play a role in across the board, not just in technology companies, but wherever there are some good jobs in demand.
Just that Tushar pointed out, I think his new role demands is that there are only two type of assets he will require for the organization. One is specialists and second is the AI tools. And the specialist roles typically, what I mean, at our part of the world is like what I see emerging is that you see a lot of FinOp analysts. Basically, it's like when we started this conversation, it's about cloud. So, and then you define what is the most optimum cloud which a customer can consume, because that was our starting point. Those are something which is major in demand. I think even the analytics, the ML ops guys are, these are the new kind of category of roles that are getting generated in the market. I think there is prompt engineering is what I've been hearing, but I really do not understand is like what is the cycle is going to be along, because it might just turn out that everybody and anybody will be a prompt engineer sooner or later, because it's like your ability to ask the right kind of questions will help you define the way forward is what I see. But the newer technologies are opening newer avenues, whereas the what I would say repetitive tasks which Abhishek was talking about getting eliminated, or getting bundled into SLMs or this basically getting kind of converted into a small the LLMs and the SLMs. But these newer technologies are opening newer avenues, and I think my suggestion to most the aspiring the students out here is typically look the other way around. See, as a customer, what do you expect from the entity you interact with? And what flaws you see, let us say, because he was mentioning Swiggy, I would typically never want to talk to them any which ways, the way they do it. But if you are able to bring about change the way you feel somebody else interacts with you from a technology standpoint, and you can bring a difference, I think that will help you choose your path correctly in this particular space is my observation. Thank you.
We almost, but please, any closing comments?
Just
from-
one
yeah.
point I wanted to add. I know we are short of time, but so the thing is, we're talking about AI. Are we going to lose the jobs to AI? That's the question most of the times we ask. So it's not, we are not going to lose to them, but people who are using AI or any emerging technology are going to take up all the jobs from people who are not using the emerging technologies or AI. So that's the closing I wanted to do, that reskilling and upskilling with any new technology. AI tha, Gen AI, फिर agentic AI, new technologies will be there all the time. So keeping ourselves up to date with the new thing is the key for us to be always relevant in the market.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah.
So I can just add to this because, I think that question, while, Tushar is the support function, but I am the one who hires. So I can answer that probably in only one word. I think the attitude apart from the technology is what matters most. So if a person who actually can be trained, who is curious enough, who is willing to collaborate when he or she comes on board, I think it's a absolutely yes. But when it comes to skills, it will keep changing, it will keep evolving. So the attitude will define whom we hire. And this is where exactly we are hiring. Either you look at from a entry level roles to the senior most roles. If people are not willing to collaborate, if they come with that fixed mindset, which is what generally the term we use, and they do not really show that aptitude about having the right understanding about the stuff and willing to learn new things, I think there is no point in hiring those people, because then they will not be relevant after a point of time as the technology is moving from A to B to C. So I think just keep one thing, which is about how do you look at a problem as not a problem, but explore what actually is to be done to eliminate that problem. And that's where India is thriving as we speak. And we have so many such startups which are doing absolutely fantastic work that we all are proud of. And you will see a lot more coming across as there is a lot of emphasis on innovation and the latest and greatest of the products, which generally people see is only coming from the western part of the world. So I think in near future, with even NASSCOM and everybody emphasizing on bringing a lot of product engineering and the stuff like that, I think the only point I would say is keep the right attitude, be it with the bring it with the growth mindset. I think a skill, if you are willing to learn, this will anyways be changing and
Sure.
evolving. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Great to end it with curious and collaborative. That's the keywords, right? Thank you so much for your time and sharing your vast experience with all of us. Thank you. Great questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, so it's fine. So please speak. Yeah. A heartfelt thank you to all our esteemed speakers for sharing their experiences, insights, and predictions that will shape the future of technology and talent. I now request Dr. Saurabh Mehta, CAO of VIT, to kindly present a token of appreciation to Mr. Tushar Desai, Ms. Vijaya Agarkar, and Mr. Abhishek Agarwal. We have a Miss Vijaya. Thank you, sir. I now request Dr. Arun Chavan, HOD of Electronics and Computer Science Department from VIT, to present a token of appreciation to Mr. Sunil Bhatia and Mr. Prasad Kulkarni. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Poonam. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Pranesh Naik, faculty at Vidyalankar Polytechnic. As we continue this exciting journey at HR Summit 2025, it's now time to begin our third panel discussion, centered on the theme that lies at the very heart of future-ready talent development. And topic for this session is aligning industry needs with academia, faculty, and graduating students. This panel will explore how academic institutions, faculty members, and students can stay aligned with the dynamic needs of the industry. Let's welcome our esteemed panel speakers. Our first panel speaker is Mr. Sanjay Jha, who is founder and CEO of SN10X. Sanjay Jha is a metallurgical engineer and an MBA with over 3 decades of diverse experience across industries, including iron and steel, agrochemicals, telecom, and automobiles, primarily with the Tata and Mahindra Group. In his most recent role at Mahindra First Choice Wheels, an auto tech company, he served for 14 years as Chief Human Resource Officer, Chief Ethics Counselor, and Senior Vice President of Business Development and OEM Relations. He is trained and certified TQM and TPN professional, a certified coach, and has been a member of the Mahindra Group HR Council. He is trained and certified TQM TPM professional. Currently focuses on leadership development, executive coaching, and consulting for productivity improvement initiatives, bringing his rich expertise to organizations and leaders seeking transformation. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Sanjay Jha. Next, we have Mr. Ashraf Engineer, independent strategic communication consultant and a media veteran. After an illustrious journey with some of the India's and world's leading communication consultancies, as well as top media houses like Times of India, Hindustan Times, and Midday, Ashraf chose to go independent. Over the years, he has successfully led large teams, built divisions, and developed a deep understanding of people and talent issues. With more than 3 decades of experience in media and strategic communication, Ashraf has worked with and serviced some of the most respected global and Indian brands. He brings this wealth of expertise in organizations, leaders, and brands seeking sharp business aligned communication strategies. Ashraf has consistently helped brands to discover and articulate their identity, enabling them to tell their stories with clarity and impact. He firmly believes that effective communication is not optional, it's essential. For him, impactful storytelling and clear messaging are the drivers of engagement, trust, and sustainable growth. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ashraf Engineer. Next, we have a panel speaker, Dr. Sangeeta Joshi, Principal VIT.
Presently serving as the principal of Vidyalankar Institute of Technology, Mumbai, she brings with her over 35 years of teaching experience and more than a decade of administrative leadership at the DT Maharashtra. She earned her PhD in microelectronics from IIT Bombay in 2001 and has since contributed extensively to academia with over 120 publications, including 5 Best Paper Awards and 1 Australian patent and 3 copyrights to her credit. Her excellence has been recognized through numerous prestigious honors, among them the Best Faculty of the Year Award by the Computer Society of India 2024, the IST Best Engineering College Teacher Award for Maharashtra State in 2022, the University of Mumbai's Best Teacher Award Urban for 2019-20, and the Academic Excellence Award at the state level from the Institution of Engineers. Beyond teaching, she has played a pivotal role in shaping technical education in Maharashtra, contributing to the state level reports such as re-engineering of technical professional courses, promotion and regulation of the autonomy. She has organized and led numerous FDPs, STTPs, seminars and conferences at VIT and has delivered impactful sessions on NAC for higher end technical institutions across the state. She has also served as a resource person for national initiatives under RUSA, that is Rashtriya Uchchatar Shikshan Abhiyan, Government of India initiative. During her tenure as the Institute Quality Assurance Committee Director at Vidyalankar, she spearheaded several quality initiatives, including the development of the performance appraisal system, faculty review mechanism, accreditation process, and so on, strengthening the Institute's commitment to excellence. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sangeeta Joshi. Now moving further, let me introduce to our speaker and the moderator for this session, Dr. Avantika Tomar, partner and L&D head, EY Parthenon. Dr. Avantika Tomar brings with her over 12 years of strategy and organizational consulting experience across diverse sectors, including education, sports, finance, service, and public sector, spanning India, Australia, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and UK. Her current focus lies in K-12 higher education and EdTech, with a personal ambition to drive policy-related transformation, particularly in India and MENA region. Beyond consulting, Dr. Tomar is a passionate academician committed to practical business learning. She serves as a guest professor at leading institutions such as IIM Kolkata, IIM Udaipur, IIM Trichy, BITSOM, and Masters Union. She is a core member of FICCI's Higher Education Committee, a two-time TEDx speaker, and a sought-after voice on the future of work. Her keynote addresses have been featured at prestigious global platforms, including the World Economic Forum Industry Conventions, the Corporate Research Forum, and the Global Youth and Apprenticeship Network. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Avantika Tomar. Okay, we were also expecting Ms. Isha Khoth, Manager, Talent and Culture, Publicis Group. But due to the health issues, she is not able to come. Over to you, Dr. Avantika.
Hi. Yes, perfect. Thank you so much for the gentleman who introduced me and the panelists. Welcome, everybody. Very, very glad to be here. And thank you to all of you for staying back. I know we are running behind schedule. I will try to make this as quick as possible because I know the four of us are standing between us and lunch, right? So we'll try and make it as effective as possible. And I think if I could request my fellow panelists to therefore make every comment that you make as actionable as possible. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. If we read the topic today, it is aligning industry needs with academia, faculty, and graduating students. I think it's a topic beaten to death. I don't know how many panels you've been a part of where we've discussed this. I certainly have. About 4 years ago, I moved back to India, and ever since, anything on higher education is about industry academia connect, right? And here we are, yet another platform where we are discussing the same thing. And therefore, for the audience as well as for the panelists, let's try and make this, what are we all in our respective jobs, in our respective mandates, what are we all going to start doing from tomorrow, right? Because everything else is just stuff that we'll talk about next year as well, right? So just introducing the topic, and for those who are uninitiated amongst the audience, look, um, even the previous panel was talking about the relevance of the skills that students, when they join the workforce, what is the relevance of what they have learned in college? How does that knowledge that, as good professors, we all try to impart to the students, how does that knowledge translate to employable skills, right? And the only way to be able to do that for, Sangeeta, myself, people who teach, who are in front of students in a classroom, the only way for us to be able to do that is if we know what Ashraf and Sanjay want, right? Because there is no way in which a professor can meaningfully cascade down theory into what is a student supposed to do on the job on day one of their employment, right? A professor, I'm telling you, cannot do it, right? I'm sorry, Sangeeta, if I'm speaking on your behalf, but we are unable to do that if we don't speak to the industry. So therefore, there are three things, right, which we will spend time today, the next kind of 30, 35 minutes. One is teaching and learning in the classroom, which means what is being taught, right? What is the content of what is being taught? Second, how can employable skills therefore be brought in, not something after you join the workforce, but before you join the workforce in a place like this, at an institute like Vidyalankar, right? And third, research, right? I don't think any meaningful discussion on industry and academia can happen without talking about applied research, and you use the word, Sangeeta, without applied research, without real world research, right? I think the gentleman who was introducing me just spoke about my work with Vicky as well. And we recently had, Honorable Minister Nitin Gadkari speak about higher education. So now some of you must be thinking, he's the road minister, right? He's the highways and roads. What does he have anything to do with higher education, right? Oh my goodness, you should have heard the man. He very beautifully translated how to deal with garbage in this country, waste management, how to do meaningful applied research on garbage, convert it into tar to build roads, right? So if we put our intelligent minds in this room itself, if we put our intelligent minds between industry and academia to work, any problem at our grassroots level can be solved through applied research, right? And therefore, I think that will be our third topic, where how can industry come together with an institute, let's say like Vidyalankar, to say, here is the real world problem. You are an institute of technology, come solve it for us, right? So that's just the context of hopefully what we'll discuss in the next half an hour. But as we begin, can we unpack some of the words in our topic first? And maybe Ashraf, I'll come to you first, if that's okay. Tell me, what does the industry, from your perspective, want from academia and faculty? We'll get to the students in a second, but what do you want from academia and faculty?
Well, first of all, Avantika, I've been teaching since 2004, so I think Sanjay is on his own when it comes to industry.
Sorry, Sanjay. Didn't mean to leave you alone there, but it's 3 versus 1 now.
Yeah. But, that's an extremely important point. I think this is something, I come from the marketing services industry, and it's among the fastest evolving of transforming industries in the world today. And a lot of that is led by technology, AI, analytics, data, so on and so forth. We all know that. The demand in my industry for quality talent has never been higher in history. But the gap between wanting that talent and actually finding that talent has also never been higher in history. And I don't think it's a question of who's to blame. I think the onus lies on both industry and academia. I think industry has too long treated academia as simply a source of people that it needs, but it needs to go beyond recruitment drives to offer live projects, to co-frame curricula, internships, and certainly I think you said research and things like that. Academia, meanwhile, I think has to be more nimble, be more agile, be more fast when it comes to responding to industry challenges. And I think that's been a problem too. And I'll just quickly, just one more point. I think while we can frame this in industry academia terms, I think the people most affected by it are the students. So I think I'm hoping that we can kind of, talk a lot, bridge that gap.
Given we are short on time, I'll stay with you for one more second, Ashraf. What's stopping us from doing all of that today?
Us now, are you talking as academia or industry?
Both. So, both,
I-
given you and I wear both
Yeah,
hats,
yeah,
what's
yeah.
stopping
I'll
us?
tell you what. I think probably inertia. I think it's not as if academia has never reached out to industry or doesn't continue to reach out to industry and say, look, we are on your side. Come work with us. And it's not as if industry doesn't reach out to academia and say, look, we want to do this. I think the problem is twofold. If I were to generalize, one is that the industry is not aggressive enough in pursuing academia, saying, no, you've got to do this. We need this. And therefore, we cannot hire your candidates unless you do that. And I don't think academia, especially in India, I think where it tends to get very bureaucratic, can respond fast enough, get over its own problems, and get in place the talent it requires to be able to pass it on to students. In fact,
Great. Sanjay, your perspective.
Well, I think, most of the time we try to solve today's problem with yesterday's mindset. And, that is why actually most of these conversations or the discussions turn into a fashionable discussion, so to speak. I'm sorry to say this. Okay, what is really required is that, both industry as well as academia, they need to sort of, uh, move one step forward. Okay, and genuinely start kind of, appreciating that this is a challenge or this is a problem which should be mutually solved, so to speak. Okay, and academia should be willing enough to learn from the industry what are their needs, actual needs, learn from the practitioners, and industry should rightfully, engage academia to sort of, tell them that, what are our requirements and what they are actually looking for in the new hire, so to speak, and how can, they can help academia or the this education institutes, so to speak, to prepare these students in a very, very practical manner. When teachers learn from practitioners, students learn from life.
Wow, that is a very quotable quote. I'll come back to that in a second. But Sanjay, in the spirit of being actionable, again, what would you do tomorrow to put this into effect? You're saying there needs to be a dialogue, there needs to be a forum between teachers and practitioners. How would you begin?
Well, see,
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
left.
I should have mentioned I'm not a very easy moderator.
No, 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 no. Good, good. This is a good question. But let me tell you that, I left corporate in 2023. Okay, now I am on my own. Okay. But if this question is, if I have to answer on behalf of any company, any corporate, my previous organization, so to speak, uh, I will certainly, take one step forward without doing too much of thinking. See, the whole problem is that we unnecessarily start kind of spicing up the things. Okay, we have to take one step forward, and we should not uh, uh, fight sides to fail, so to speak. Okay, so what if I fail in this endeavor? At least I'll learn. I'll become a better person. I will have much better idea, so to speak. So unless we take one step forward, we'll never learn.
I'm totally
And
with you.
and the other party also will not join, will not be able to build trust.
Yeah.
Today, what is happening? It is just converting into intellectual discussion.
Mm.
That's it.
Mm.
We are not building trust.
Yeah. In consulting, we call it analysis paralysis, right? So let's come to the true other party, which is Sangeeta, who's a true
Right.
professor here. And I think
Yes.
I'll repeat what Sanjay said. When a teacher learns from a practitioner, a student learns from life. Can we just clap for that for a second? I think that was excellent. Very beautifully said. So, are our teachers willing to both teach but also learn from practitioners, Sangeeta?
Yes, Avantika, this topic, industry academia collaborations, since long we have been hearing, And as Avantika said, there are very few actionable points till today. Even the government of India, government of Maharashtra, and all academicians and industries experts, they are actually working on it. You know, a decade ago, you would find that this demarcation was a very thick demarcation, coming industries closer to the academia, or rather continuing engineering education, giving to the industry from any academics. So, but today you will find that mobility is to a higher scale. Industries are coming forward, academics, because in the accreditation, collaborations are having the weightages. And even the benefits are also there to the students from the employability point of view. So everybody is well aware about these collaborations, and now mingling is happening. However, what I would say that it is only event based. It is not a system as such. Today also, you know, to happen this event, Harsh has worked very hard to get all together. Maybe 1 hour somehow they have carved out, I have carved out, and we are sitting together. But we have to have a outcome based events, because then it has to be sustained in a focused efforts thereafter. Then only it would happen that something would be getting to the faculty. Definitely today faculty's job is very, very challenging. Those days have gone, teach and go home. They're supposed to be updated. They're supposed to be mentors. They are supposed to be keep updated and have a strong networking with the industry experts. Then only we will be able to understand what the industries are expecting. Moreover, I would say there are three components in the academics or any educational organization: curriculum design, delivery, and assessment. If you look at the design, even in the Vidyalankar, since we have received autonomy in 22, we are very much uh, focusing on the design aspects of the curriculum, so that it will keep pace with the industries. You know that industries are emerging, technologies are evolving very fast. Any curriculum design cannot frequently be changed to that extent. That is definitely there. Even you look at the R&D, in the R&D industries, they are going very fast. Research that we are doing at the educational institute remains on shelf thesis only. So what is required in an action plan, you say, we are supposed to invite industries as a part of the system itself, rather than inviting them only for the events. It should go beyond MOUs. It should go beyond events. There is a term called as a professor of practice, which all India Council of Technical Education, they have given this opportunity to all educational institutes. 20% of the faculty which are required can be appointed from the industry experts. And out of that, gender diversity also they have maintained. 5% are supposed to be women. So whenever government also is promoting this appointments, institute should come forward and appoint industry experts, so that 24 hours they would be on the system, on board. Otherwise, it is very difficult to get the industry experts hardly for some reviews, program reviews. And again, I'm telling you, even if I am updating my curriculum, what is more important is the content delivery. Unless that is happening as per the expectations of the industry, nothing is going to happen. Even if I am good at delivery, assessment has to be happened from the third party. I would say if industry experts come on campus and do the assessment, would be much better than my colleagues doing it. So overall, everybody has to come forward to have a focused effort, and then you will be getting a good outcome.
So, you know, it's a classic debate where it takes two to tango. So clearly the professors are saying industry needs to come on campus, take the assessments, work with us on the curriculum design. The practitioners are saying move one step forward, right? That is what Sanjay was saying. In this two to tango, there is the student who's somehow getting shortchanged in the process, right? Like if we are all being honest to ourselves, all the non-students in the room, we end up doing disservice to the students, right? And I'll tell you how, because I have, like Ashraf, I have the benefit of straddling both worlds, right? I teach over the weekends in some of the IIMs, etc. And I am a partner with EY, and therefore I hire from very similar institutions as well, right? Now, when I'm teaching, I make it a point, Sangeeta, exactly to what you said. I make it a point to impart skills as opposed to just pure knowledge, which I will need when they join me, right? When I'm recruiting, I'm also trying to recruit for the same skills that I taught in my course, right? The challenges and why the student is getting kind of straddled between the industry and the academia is there are not very many universities, not very many professors, not very many courses and programs that offer that kind of a bridge between knowledge and don't get me wrong, theoretical underpinning is extremely important. The foundation of good knowledge is what skills rest upon. You can't say, okay, start learning the skills without having the knowledge, right? Of course. But I think what my view anyway is, yes, the two need to come together. Industry and academia absolutely need to come together. But we are often forgetting the student in the mix, right? I am yet to attend a conference, and as you can probably guess, I attend very many of them, where one of the panelists is a student. Just think about it. We are discussing industry academia connect. Who are we doing this for? How many students in the room? आप लोग क्यों नहीं है यहाँ stage पे, right? One of them, like, I mean it, right? So the next time around, I would love to, and I say this in every conference, it's not me. I would love to be in a panel where a student is saying, by the way, this was taught to me. When I went for my internship, the company expected something totally different. So while I was a top grader, I got 90 plus blah, blah marks. I go into that internship. Week one was a nightmare, right? You hear stories like that all the time, right? That's the bridge I just feel. If we start becoming centered around what will make the student's life easier, whether it's an internship or a job or a startup, if it's an entrepreneurial ambition that they have, how do we make that ambition of theirs easier and work backwards from there, whether we are the industry or we are the professors? My view anyway, I think it's going to bring us skills in a way that we haven't been able to outside of intellectual discussions. But anyway, coming back, Sanjay, I'll come back to you if that's okay. Tell me, where do you feel, and I know when we were discussing this amongst ourselves, you spoke about ethics, you spoke about the soft skills, you spoke about, continuing on that theme with the students, right? Where is the industry academia connect required to make sure these students not only become, great employees, but also model citizens?
Good point. So let me tell you, I'll just give you an example. So I was in a meeting where Mr. Anand Mahindra was also present, and we were discussing that, from which Mahindra company we can get the right talent for the kind of platformization we that time wanted to kind of, do in our business. So I was CHR of Mahindra First Phase Wheels, which is a used car business. And so people, is Abhishek around from Tech Mahindra? No, he left. Okay, so Anand said that, why don't you people hire from Techem? There are a lot of talent. And then our CEO, that time CEO, he said that Anand, entire Mahindra group or even Tata group, TCS including, they do not have the kind of talent we are looking. This is way back in 2014 or 15. So why, I mean, so, I learned from him that why he was saying so. So on one hand, you need a technical sort of skill in this kind of thing. I don't want going to discuss that part. But in addition to that, you need to have, in today's time, you need to have that entrepreneurial mindset. I mean, in Mahindra Group, we have something called GMC, General Management Cadre, like TAS of Tata's. Okay. And Anand also suggested that you can get somebody from GMC cadre also. But our CEO, he said that, look, GMC would come and they will require that they should have team under them. But, we are company where we expect our folks, our leaders to sort of fold the sleeve and actually soil the hand. So the kind of, requirement we have, I mean, as an industry, in today's time, I don't think in the education institutes, they are kind of, training or preparing the students in that line. So let me give you a few examples. So we we do not want toppers. We actually want thinkers. We do not want just, the managers or leaders. We actually want owners, risk takers, entrepreneurs. We want someone who is, who has explorer spirit, so to speak, who has curiosity of scientist, and who has the perceptual equity of the early man. So that kind of thing is not taught, but this is industry reality. These are not no more cosmetic ideas, so to speak. These are the realities of today. Okay. And job seeking would gradually become less and less predominant, and the entrepreneurship will take the center stage. So in that kind of background, you need to have that kind of mindset, and academia needs to be ready for, uh, that kind of curriculum, they should be ready to sort of teach, and prepare the students in that way.
Excellent, excellent. Again, very well put, Sanjay. I think back to the students in the room, thinkers, not toppers, is what you said. Trust me, Sanjay, I feel the pain. The number of toppers we hired at EGAI Parthenon who I can't put in front of a client because they just don't know how to speak, right? They just don't have the listening skills. The client is talking about their problems, what happened, this data, that data. The student, the employee, the candidate is just not willing to listen to what the client problem is. There is no way you can solve a problem if you don't listen to what it is, right? So absolutely, again, please stop chasing marks, everybody. There is
Wonder
there-
how ma'am thinks about this.
so there is a big beautiful world. I was going to say big bad word. Beautiful world outside that actually does not care about your marks beyond a point, right? But Ashraf, staying with you, and Sanjay's given us a start on this. Tell me, uh, he's talking about thinkers. He's talking about, early man-like traits. What are those traits which you would call, Ashraf, employable skills?
Yeah. So, I mean, just to reassert what he said, I've been hiring since 1998. Never once have I hired somebody because he or she is a topper, not even once, right? So, what are we looking for? What are these traits that we are looking for? So, take away the fundamental, right? That you know how to do a particular job, right? If you can't design a car unless you are an automobile engineer, take that apart. What am I looking for? And I was actually going to say this in my closing remarks, but it's a good time to say it now. What I call the employability paradox, right? Uh, it's it, what is it that is going to make you stand out? It's going to be stuff like emotional maturity. It's going to be stuff like client management. It's going to be stuff like great written and verbal skills, things like that. We used to call it soft skills or supplementary skills earlier. I can tell you that they're utterly fundamental now. So, and what am I looking for? I'm not looking for just the academic qualification. I'm looking for these things, and I'm looking for two other things in particular. One is the ability to get things done. It sounds silly, it sounds very basic, but I cannot tell you how rare that is to find. The ability to get things done, and B, the ability to work with other people. Because unless you are somebody who's working alone, which is very rare, you're going to be working with teams in collaborative setups. So if these few things are in place, then to me, that's a great candidate.
And how does, sorry, just to follow up on that, how do people like Sangeeta, myself, yourself, people who are in a classroom, how do we get to teach some of these things? Like it's hard, right? Like you're right. It's such a basic thing. Get things done. How do we teach that in a classroom?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's not an easy one to answer. I think some of it, a lot of it happens by not sticking to the pedagogy that we have been sticking to so far. You identify a syllabus, you talk about theory, put it on a screen, and walk out. A lot of it happens by doing exercises that you would actually face in an industry.
So simulation.
Simulations, exercises, things like that. So teaching through that format rather than talking down or talking, just having a one way, having a monologue with a classroom, tends to work much better in my experience. So a lot of that is passed on through that.
Great. Sangeeta, how much of that simulation, right? Because basically Ashraf is saying simulate a real world scenario inside the classroom to the extent possible. How much of that is actually feasible at, say, Vidya Alankar Institute of Technology?
So, well, what Sanjay said, I totally agree. We are supposed to impart knowledge. Application of knowledge is a skill. So knowledge and skill are extremely important factors for students to learn. Apart from that, the third factor which Sanjay also noticed very strongly is the attitude. And uh, Ashraf also said those life skills. So these two things are taken care by National Education Policy 2020 by introducing the liberal learning courses in the curriculum. And these courses are not taught, or the pedagogies are quite different. These are activity based. Even the social service internships are also included so that students get sensitized to the social concerns and problems. So once upon a time, I remember that one of the panelists in some other panel discussion, he said that while recruiting the students in a company, more than technical knowledge, attitude is evaluated very strongly. And from that point of view, the challenge to academic institutes is that we are handling Gen Z generation and molding them, keeping them in a discipline, adopting the professionalism. I mean, if what is the difference in academics and industry? The major difference is the ambience. So although we are supposed to have a ecosystem fostering the collaboration and having that work culture, unless my faculty show the professionalism, unless they show, because normally students are following the faculty. So in the content delivery, wherever they are doing discipline, work culture, work ambience, professionalism, all these things would automatically come if the faculty, it is imbibed in the faculty and the ambience itself. Discipline. The discipline in industry is quite different than the discipline is academics. So unless we imbibe that culture, it is very difficult.
No, that's a great point, Sangeeta, that faculty needs to lead by example, right? They need
Exactly.
to emulate the behaviors, all the lovely things that all of you have said. If our faculty, and again, now this is us talking to other faculty in the room, if you lead by example, if you have those behaviors around problem solving and good communication, good teamwork, like you said, I think the students, it'll have a ripple effect, is what you're saying. No, great point, Sangeeta. Just one last question for you before we open to the audience. Um, what is your expectation from the industry when it comes to research?
Well, Avantika, research at the educational institutes. Uh, in my institute, we are having two PhD programs. Currently, what is happening? It is a topic driven or the publication driven, not the problem driven. And even if I take up a problem of an industry for my research, actually what happens? One of my PhD students, I had given video compression techniques 10 years back. That time only mobile handsets, small handsets were there. Androids were not there. But by the time she completed the research in the video compression technique, industries has gone much ahead. And that research become useless then. So unless you do research, of course, that despite this fact, one has to take the applied research. I do agree with you. Because the otherwise it is a thesis in the shelf rather than it is a to be used in the industry shop floor. So definitely applied research has to be there. But what are my expectations from the industry is that unless we have a collaborative problem statement which is given by the industry for their from their R&D departments, if they appoint some industry mentor for the college itself, and if they evaluate, they take the reviews of that, and probably the pilot first run of that PhD outcome, if that would be in the industry, then only probably it would be able to happen. I mean, that is the useful outcome. Otherwise, normally you will find that the research remains on the shelf itself, that thesis.
Well, my midlife crisis is because of exactly that point. My PhD thesis is sitting in a beautiful shelf somewhere. It did not benefit anybody.
Fortunately, I worked in a DRDO problem
Great.
and Red Hat technology in IIT Bombay. So still it is in used.
Excellent. I'm sure you feel and sleep much better every night compared to me. But let me open that on that thought to the audience again. We are discussing industry, academia, connect, and how to bring the two worlds closer. My personal plea to everyone is, how do you bring the two closer for the benefit of the student, the ultimate beneficiary for which we all exist here in a place like this, along three metrics, three dimensions: teaching and learning inside the classroom, imparting employable skills to the students, And then finally, on research, how to actually solve a problem, do problem-based research, like Sangeeta said, as opposed to publication-based research, which I'm sure a lot of faculty, hand on heart, we've all published, but did it solve anybody's problem? Something for you to think about. But questions from the audience, please. I see a hand up there. Yes, please go ahead. Do you want to yell your question? Okay. Not because
Hello.
of the mic. Yes, now you are.
So I really liked your take, how you said that in this panel discussion, there's absence of a student, and the student is always the neglected factor in such discussions. So firstly, I'd like to countertake that. You could have just picked a volunteer from the audience.
Okay,
Yeah,
fair
so
enough.
this panel would have been more fruitful. So the biggest problem, okay, the student is neglected. The industry expects something from the students. They convey it to the teachers, the faculty. The faculty teaches us in a certain way. But the problem is we are not able to apply that knowledge. There's a lack of space where we can apply that knowledge. For example, maths. You learn maths, you learn how to solve a particular set of questions, then you try to solve them your own. You're applying the logic that you have learned. So, for an example, there's the subject business communication. I have learned it, but I don't have a space to apply that knowledge. So this is a big issue students face, and this is creating the, I don't know, the bridge, the gap between what the industry wants and what the students are failing to provide. So what could be done in such case? For
Yeah.
me, from my stand, let's say the government, as ma'am said, government is taking certain initiatives. I don't think it's enough. From my side, the suggestion would be something like, since the corporates have something in compulsion such as CSR activities, they should also have a certain compulsion of hiring interns or having students at a certain numbers, which which can learn, which can come to their companies and have some work and apply the knowledge that they have learned.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great thought. What's your name? Sorry.
I'm Sujal.
Sujan. So absolutely, Sujan, I'll take a stab at it and Sangeeta, you can add. But our education policy now talks about internships and apprenticeships. So the government is now mandating, not just for degree programs like yours, Sujan, but also for diplomas, even certifications, that unless there is a hands-on learning experience, you cannot consider a degree or a diploma complete anymore. So are we there yet in terms of both quantity and quality? Some places still there is just a check mark. It's just a tick the box. Sarkar ne kaha tha, humne kar diya, right? But is the intention exactly what you're saying, that let students learn something in a classroom, apply in the real world? The intention is exactly that. We'll get there in terms of both quantity of these internships, but more importantly, and what I'm more passionate about, is the quality of these internships. Because for anybody who's ever interned anywhere, you are the lowest in the food chain. Nobody really cares about you in the organization. That still hasn't changed, right? Even large organizations, large tech companies, large consulting firms will give just some work to the intern ki ab aaya hai to kuch dete hain. But that needs to change a lot more. But it's happening. I would say it's moving. I don't know, Sangeeta, what your thoughts?
Yes, yes. What Sujal said, he quoted an example of subject mathematics. I would say in every subject, rather, it is having some boundaries of that subject. Whenever students are doing well, maybe knowledge is acquainted, application of knowledge is there, skill set is also developed, but that skill set is limited to that subject only. So for that purpose, in Engineering Institute, what we are doing, we are actually having a 2 credit course for every semester, semester third onwards, wherein we are actually following the integrated approach. I have learned C, I have learned Java, I have learned data structures, algorithms, but integrated approach towards this for solving the real life problems. So these problem solving abilities using all interdisciplinary subjects is more important. And exactly that we are going to do in this course. So probably
That's
that
more
will
like the
solve these
systems,
problems.
system
Yes.
thinking as well.
Yes.
Got it, got it. Hopefully that was helpful, Sujan. We're getting there. Trust me, man.
Yes, yes, of course.
Yes, please. There's one here and then one here, please. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon all. Thank you for such a fruitful discussion. I'm Dr. Rugved Devlekar and belonging to TSS Consultancy Private Limited, working as a manager of HR&A.
Sure. They'll pass it on. Perfect. Great question. Ashraf first and then Sandeep.
Yeah. So I think, great question, first of all. So I work very closely with I'll give you a real life example. I work very, very closely with the Advertising Standards Council of India. I head 4 functions there. The Advertising Standards Council of India, for example, has institutionalized what they call an FDP. You would know what that is, a faculty development program, where they work with mass media and communication institutions across the country specifically to train faculty on the advertising codes of India. And that the faculty then is equipped to then train their students on the advertising codes of India. So I think this is a critical point. And I don't think we talk about it enough. I mean, every time I've raised this issue with various institutions that I've taught in, there's you're told, yeah, we agree with you, but then nothing happens. Whereas, there are industry examples like the one I just cited, where the focus is critically on faculty, because that's how you achieve amplification. You train one professor, you've actually trained 100 students. Whereas, it's not the other way around if you're in a classroom.
Well said, Ashraf. Did you want to add in?
Yes, please allow me to speak in Marathi for one sentence. ऋग्वेद मी फोकस याच्यासाठी फॅकल्टीला म्हणाले, आपण मराठीमध्ये म्हणतो आडात नाही तर पोहऱ्यात कुठून येणार. तर इट इज व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट फॉर अ फॅकल्टी टू अपडेट अँड बी कॉम्पिटंट. आणि फॉर दॅट पर्पज विद्यालंकर इज डेप्युटिंग फॅकल्टी फॉर फॅकल्टी इंटर्नशिप्स इन इंडस्ट्रीज. इट इज अ रेग्युलर प्रॅक्टिस. They are getting exposed to all industries, tools and data sets, whatever is available. And second thing is that even continuing education programs, which educational institutes are supposed to do it for the industries. Many of my faculties in the design thinking recently, Professor Patel had been to a couple of industries. So that is also getting promoted. So this is really helping each other to have that culture on our campus.
Excellent. We just need more of it, I think, and across universities and campuses. Absolutely. Hi.
Thank you so much, Avantika. I'm Nagesh. I'm student of JBIMS Mumbai. So I'm HR student. So what are the major constraints in building the strong academia industry synergy, and what are the practical measures can help overcome them? Because we talk more about we have synergy. You are giving the liberty to student attend, there will be live project internship, but I feel there are some constraints because we give them the projects, but actually in the shorter time span, what we are expecting from them is will not get exactly delivered. So what could be the ways that we can improve these practices?
So I can start, and maybe Sanjay, you can add to what the constraints are. I think, look, my view anyway, Nagesh, is biggest constraint is each side thinks the other side doesn't understand them. It's like a bad marriage, right? Like,
Because you
yeah,
are-
the husband thinks, oh, so she's not understanding the wife.
because you are offering us internship, but she will ask for the 75% attendance. Okay?
See, so both sides believe in what they have to offer. Professors are very passionate people. They love their subject. They really like to impart a lot of knowledge, right? They want all their students to have everything that's in their head in their heads, right? Coming from a good place, right? But professors, generally speaking, by and large, do not understand how much of what they are teaching is actually not relevant for the student to work, right? Might be great for knowledge, but not relevant to work. Industry, on the other side, again, I can speak from both sides of my mouth because I am genuinely on both ends. Industry, on the other hand, believes there is no way. As soon as the person joins, the first thing we have to do is we have to train them. Why do you think the Infosys big campuses exist? You know, in Mysore campus, 6 months of training. Ideally, if you ask me, an engineer has just come out of a college, should be deployable from day one, right? The person has just studied computer science. You want them to do computer science at work. They should, from day one, they should make money for you. You hired them, you're paying them salary. Why are you training them for 6 months first? It shouldn't happen. But I think somewhere along the way, I feel this trust that colleges will give us what we want, that trust has now been broken, right? So we as well, even from a consulting standpoint, I can tell you, business school students straight out of the ISBs and IIMs of the world, first thing we do is we give them training on storytelling, PowerPoint, financial modeling, because those are the skills I need from my staff, right? They're coming from an IIM Ahmedabad. Surely they know how to build an Excel model, right? But somewhere along the way, I feel both sides don't understand each other really well. Both sides have, in a way, kind of given up on the value both sides add, right? And time. I think time is probably the other constraint. If you give me, like Sujan said, if you give me 10 interns, it's great, but can I meaningfully train 10 interns while I'm running 5 projects, doing these conferences, writing a paper, teaching on the side, etc.? Sometimes time is an impediment. But Sanjay, would you like to add to what are the constraints Nagesh is asking and how do we solve?
I would rather like to put it in a sort of, I would propose a model, so to speak. Okay. So see, the problem is that, in lighter vein, with your permission, I can say that professor thinks that everybody is a student for him or her. That's the mindset. Okay. Whereas industry actually, it goes by the sort of value chain concept or supply chain concept, where there is someone who is consuming a product and someone who's processing the raw material, and then you have supplier. Okay. So if you could see, when I'm saying you, I mean academia could see this entire chain in terms of industry as actually your customer, the students as semi-finished product, then you can have a business development person who can go and, like any industry, can pitch to the few companies, okay, of your interest and say that, hey, let us co-create the right talent for you. Okay. And I'm inviting you, you share the actual role, actual competencies needed, and you evaluate. And I will sort of co-design the curriculum along with you. Okay. So then you involve. So like any company, you will have, you should have a business development person. You should have a curriculum design or product development person. And then there should be there should be a journey, so to speak. And then that model, I think that would sort of, create a big sense for industry also to invest and reap benefits, so to speak. So this
That's the bridge, according to you.
that's the bridge.
Let universities have a professionalized workforce.
That's right.
Job it is. Not to teach, but
Today, Avantika, what is happening? We have very socialistic kind of mindset. चलो लोगों का भला करना है, स्टूडेंट का भला करना है, इसलिए इंटर्नशिप दिलवा दो. सरकार ने कहा इसलिए कर दो. That's not the right approach. Approach should be that they are the semi-finished product and industry actually need them. But then academia has to actually, take charge of sort of, doing the business development, co-create these products as a finished product, okay, and involve them.
This time we had 100% internships for all students. So things are moving forward. And I know that what Sanjay is saying is very correct. But somehow mindset, ambience, workplace culture, everything needs to be geared up. And we are on the, I suppose, right track, proposing so many new models, finishing schools. what I said, that 2 credit course, faculty internships, there are many things which we are working on. We are trying to tied up with the industries for their skills. And what somebody said, I don't know, recollect Sanjay or Ashraf, ki train the trainers. So we are first time inviting industry to have that aptitude, technical, and whatever they would like to groom the students from employability point of view. Our teachers would be sitting in the class, and then next time they would be teaching. Because many times we are finding that even in the aptitude also students are not able to come to the benchmark.
On a lighter note, I love it. He's saying they should do something. She's saying, "Arey, you come in first." Classic. Any last question? We can just take one more. Oh, sorry. Okay. Last two. We'll take yours first and then the lady there.
Hi, this is Tejas, and I'm in type with Vidyalankar Polytechnic since past 3 years. So basically, I provide internships to the students. Okay. So looking at this, I have three. I'll conclude in a short time. 3 points. There two would be suggestions. One would be a question.
Okay.
So one of the suggestion is like we practice something called as virtual recruitment drive. Okay, or you can say virtual HR drive in Xavier's when I was there. So in that, what happened now? As you know, like TPOs stand for third year, final year students. Okay, but herein what we did was for the third year students, we called the tie up the companies because anyways TPO has all the contacts. Okay, and then the company came, they had a conversation with students and everything. So in which, but obvious nowadays students are quite sharp, they do their apps and everything, they try to do themselves. But what about the questions which HR have about them, how to like GDs and everything in front of giving in front of GD, like in the faculties or any institution person, and providing GD in front of a HR, actual HR of company, there is a vast different thing. Okay, because HRs know what they want from the students.
Got it. So one of your suggestions is have
Yeah.
a preparation
Drive.
drive. Okay.
Yeah,
Well done.
for
Okay.
the
What else?
third year students.
Yeah.
Secondly, as I told you, like I myself, I hire interns from Vidyalankar. So in that, what we identify is many of the students are but obviously they're skilled. But what I feel is, in 10th standard, now there is in Maharashtra we call it Kala Chachani. Okay, so skill, what is your skill? And many of people like while hiring them, many students came saying that I want to do digital marketing, I want to do networking, or like computer networks, or they want to do something related to hardware. But once they come, their idea changes. Okay, the domain changes. So in that condition, I would like to say, like in internal college, they can have some set of questions, some set of things that they can identify actually what is the skill level of the student, and accordingly they
And
can guide
therefore,
them.
career counsel based on the skills they have and the passion that they have going
Yeah.
forward. Got it. Okay. Okay. So
So
it's almost like a career counseling, help the mapping between what they have and what they want.
Actually, many colleges get industry people in to prepare the students for the interview. So that happens quite often.
yeah,
So, what you're saying is that how do I prepare a candidate to face the interviewer at the industry level? But many colleges already have institutionalized.
yeah,
And now there are third-party edtech companies who do that, like a
yeah,
Board Infinity and
absolutely,
things like-
absolutely.
Okay.
But that's what I'm trying to tell. Like, it should happen like
Across
regular.
the board. Yeah. Fair
Yeah,
enough. Okay. So what's
And-
your question?
Yeah,
then?
question would be like then like Vidyalankar, I think so it is now autonomous if I'm not wrong,
Yeah.
right? So are like is Vidyalankar planning to do something especially for job orientation of students, because now they have everything in their hand, I hope.
Yes, that's what I said. There are basically 3 components: technical, communication, I mean life skills, and then aptitude. So we are preparing students right from semester 2 onwards. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they will be in this zone.
But is this career counseling and mapping of current skills to future skills, does that happen?
We are actually collecting data from the industry. What are the prerequisites for suppose IT sector? And based on the conversation, we are setting up the goals in those 2 credit courses.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Last question. Oh, every time I say last, there's one more. Okay, last two, this time promise, everybody's hungry now.
Students are more interested in the industry academia.
Of course. Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, I'm Jayashree Gurung from first year MMS.
Hi,
As you have said that you want us to be thinkers, not toppers. But what is your recruitment criteria? Like you have said that you have all the toppers in your companies that you can't put up with in
Yeah.
front of the client. So how do you hire?
So, Jayashree, I can give you the consulting answer. So, we actually, in any resume, we want balance, right? If somebody has consistently been rank one in school, in college, in MBA, and whatnot, but there is nothing else on their resume, they don't even get shortlisted. Let alone sitting in front of me and interviewing. They won't even get a shortlist, right? So, a typical IIM has a batch of 400, 450 students. As you can imagine, consulting is a very sought after profession. So about 350 students apply, 350, 380, somewhere there. We do first round of shortlisting, which is just purely based on CVs. We have a shortlist of 40 students, a hot list of 20, 25. If you just have marks and nothing else, you won't even make it to the 40, right? So for us, what do we therefore look for and hire for? We shortlist based on, of course, your grades plus positions of responsibility. So have you been, in any leadership position, either in school or college or business school or whatever? We definitely 100% shortlist for extracurriculars. So anybody who has done extracurriculars on a sustained basis, it could be anything, Jayashree, singing, dancing, painting, sport, public speaking, debating, quizzing, it could be anything, but just doing something consistently and at a good enough level, right, is a much bigger high for us in consulting than getting great marks, right? And then finally, if people have work ex, I mean, not that we don't hire freshers, but if people have good, relevant work ex, that definitely matters to us. Yeah. Sorry, I'll take that. It's similar feedback on toppers versus not. I would give yes.
Absolutely. I think when you're interviewing, what you're looking for is a sense, a holistic sense of a person rather than just the technical expertise that they have. I think that in a nutshell.
Perfect. Last question, and I'm so sorry, guys. This one is really the last. Yeah. Yes, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, good afternoon. But it's a suggestion, not a question. Yeah. For all the kids, young kids who are sitting at the back, please take this as a small advice. Do not assume that the corporate is some alien coming from the Mars. They're all they all come from institute like Vidyalankar or any other college in Mumbai. So you don't have to be very different. Okay. Point number one. Point number two is academic institutes are not supposed to produce bricks for economy. They are supposed to produce intellectual people who have multiple facets of life. So let's do that. And they will do well in industry, research, academia. Rather than creating a facade of we have to be very different to be in a corporate, we have to be very different to be in research, we have to be very different to be in academics. That's not the story. My reading of research papers in education field, entrepreneurship tells me very simple thing. You be good at what you are. If you've gone to school in Vidyalankar and if you're taking a maths subject, be good in maths. You'll always do well in life. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much on that note. Thanks a lot to my panelists as well. Thank you.
It was a really interesting session. Ladies and gentlemen, a heartfelt thank you to all the esteemed speakers for sharing their experiences and insights. I now request Dr. Ashish Kirve sir, Principal Vidyalankar Polytechnic, to kindly present a token of appreciation, Dr. Avantika Tomar and Dr. Sangeeta Joshi. Thank you, sir. I would also like to call upon stage Dr. Gajanan Nagre, sir, to felicitate Mr. Ashraf Engineer and Mr. Sanjay Jha. Gajanan, sir, is HOD of Biomedical Engineering, BIT. One group photo, please. आता है जाएगा. I know everyone is hungry. Let me just complete the procedure. Well, as we conclude this inspiring second edition of HR Summit 2025, I feel truly honored to extend my gratitude to all our distinguished guest speakers. Your insights have enriched today's gathering and sparked meaningful conversations. We thank our management, our director, Mr. Milind Tadvalkar sir, our principals and vice principals of VIT, VSIT, and VP. Your leadership and support have been instrumental in making this summit a success. I also wish to thank the HR fraternity, our delegates, alumni, faculty, and students for their enthusiastic participation. A special mention to the organizing and support teams. Your tireless efforts behind the scenes are much appreciated. This HR Summit has served as a platform to inspire, connect, and strengthen the bridge between industry and academia. We look forward to many more collaborations that will continue to shape future-ready leaders. Well, after this, ladies and gentlemen, now I'll invite all the guests and dignitaries to proceed for the networking lunch arranged in M Block lobby. Please join us to continue the conversation, exchange ideas, and connect with fellow professionals. Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful afternoon. Lunch is arranged in M Block lobby. You can proceed from the backstage. All guests and dignitaries are requested to proceed from the backstage. Volunteers are here to take you to the M Block lobby. Please come this side.